We are once again live from Studio B here at the Beach Street Yacht Club in San Francisco's beautiful Marina District. We actually have some sunlight and a clear sky today, Julia.
Yes, indeed, and there's more to come.
Is there? Are we done with the rainy season?
No,
Oh, we're not?
but for the week, maybe.
You see, Mark Holland says the ice has now iced over.
I know.
They've got a big winter storm, snow and beyond in the mid part of the country, the eastern.
Jonathan Frank says it's 3 degrees centigrade.
Centigrade or Fahrenheit?
Centigrade.
Oh, well, that's not so bad. Ice now has iced over. Ed Worley's in sunny SoCal. Peter Taylor's in New York City where it's cold. Christopher Gillingham's over in Leamington. Rick Bannero. Ola crawling around Fairfield, Westchester County, Ed to Bergen County. Okay, we Tappan Zee Bridge. Have fun going across the Tappan Zee on a Friday. Rick Banner, we're going to feature Rick here in a second. I'm your host, Tom Eamon. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate very much your joining us on this Friday, the 21st of Feb, show number 800, Julia.
Uh-oh.
810.
How did that happen?
I don't know. I don't know how these weeks fly by, but I have a shirt on in honor of our guest coming on in a moment. We're really pleased to have John Rogers, but I want to thank our guest from Tuesday first. This is the esteemed Britt Ward, who was with us on, did I say Friday, on Tuesday's show.
Yep.
And he is, of course, the president of Far Yacht Design now, and it was a fabulous discussion we had. First, he was promoting the 25th Chesapeake Sailing Yacht Symposium, which will take place the 14th to 15th of March in Annapolis at the Naval Academy, where his wife, Jay, is a naval architecture and engineering professor. She's the only person I know, Julia, who's smarter than you.
Absolutely.
She is some, double PhD, I think.
He said not.
Well,
but only one.
How many do you need?
He doesn't need any.
No, and he's extremely bright and facile.
Yes.
There's a good word for a simple country boy.
Yes.
But the world's longest running technical forum dedicated to advancing the art of and science of sailing, it's going on next month, and it's still open if you want to go and attend in person, or if you want to just go for one day. If you want to get the papers, there's a bunch of papers on different topics that they put out, not just yacht racing, but also on sail powered shipping, for example. And Britt told us all about that on Tuesday's show. So go back if you're interested. Go back and have a look at that. But better yet, go to their website and sign up. Also, we talked inevitably about the America's Cup because, as you all know, Britt was a key member, the head of the Hull project, Hull design segment of the American Magic design team. And they had that very, very low freeboard and low windage hull. And we talked, and I think the most interesting thing after our hour-long discussion that really about the America's Cup was when he said, quote, ETNZ, Emirates Team New Zealand, gained 20 meters in every maneuver. Remember?
Yep.
And we knew that. We knew watching it. John Rogers, who's our guest today, came on and watched those 31 watch parties. He was there. In fact, he came on
for him.
as a Zoomer for a number of them, Coach John Rogers.
Yeah.
And we all concluded that ETNZ probably had a mechatronics, mechanical electronics. They had some software advantages the other teams didn't have because they wrote the rule.
Yes.
And the Challenger record was pretty weak and didn't always insist on the rights of the challengers as a group, maybe perhaps as strongly as they might have done. Mechatronics. In any event, ETNZ were unbeatable. Not because they had the best match racing team, not because they had the best starts, not because they had the best straight-ahead inline speed, but every time there was, as Sail GP calls it, a maneuver.
Yes.
Why can't they call it a tack or a jibe, Julia?
Oh, because nobody understands.
We confuse the non-sailing public?
Yeah.
Is that why they still use kilometers per hour?
Yes.
Crutonicism. Absolute crutonicism.
Well, who would understand?
Everybody would. We know the difference between meters and knots and meters and yards. American football and the rest of the world, everybody understands. Besides, you learn something there.
Yes, indeed.
Britt was a fabulous guest, and
thanks
again. Go back, if you haven't seen it, go back and look at, because as you know, all our shows are in replay, both on Facebook and Julia on YouTube.
Too, yeah. I'm always amazed at the information he has in his head that just sort of flows out. Ah,
It flows out. Well, you don't have to go to Stanford to be super smart.
he is super
He
smart.
is, and you know where he went. Remember where he went? He's a Webby.
Yes,
He's intimidating, but he's also a lot of fun.
he is.
And he loves his red wine.
Can't be all bad.
I can vouch for that. Ted Ryman's checking in from Cape Town. Greg Phillips has sent us a couple funnies. He's checking in from the Gold Coast of Oz. Jonathan Frank. By the way, Jonathan Frank, here back in Galveston, he's our 777 pilot Fozy, and he says the chill wind blows 3 degrees C. Yeah, you mentioned that a minute ago, Julia. Steve Atkins, Commodore Atkins made the start, but I have news, Julia.
Yes.
Texting with Claire Harrington today, who has flown to Florida for a New York Yacht Club series of events down there over the next couple days.
Uh-huh.
She is not only a pilot, but she is jet rated.
Is she?
And I said, Claire, you and Jonathan Frank, we need to get the two of you. We need to charter. Julia's going to charter a jet, and we're going to start flying anybody that wants to go to one of these events. We're going to fly you around the Sailing Illustrated Charter Company.
Oh, yes.
And she said, I'm in.
Oh.
Jonathan Frank already said he was in. He said that on the left.
We're all in trouble.
Toso, Josh Toso's checking in from Newport. Really looking forward to the convo with John Rogers. Aren't we all? Larry Kennedy on Long Island. In New York, Ted Ryman down in Cape Town, back and forth with Banro. And there's Jeff Kitson hanging out here for a few minutes as we go to Palm Beach. He's also in Palm Beach for a black tie wedding in about 45 minutes, a Friday wedding.
Wow.
Looks like interesting radio-controlled boats. Well, Jeff, watch it in replay because John Rogers has forgotten more about RC yachting and yachts than most of us will know. By the way, Claire Harrington told me she's got one of these DF95.
She told us that before.
She did, indeed. See, you got a mind like a steel trap. Martin Bowers is watching from Raleigh, North Carolina, where they have snow on the ground, but clearing quickly so they can get their DF95 season off to a start next weekend.
Okay.
Now, for extra credit, Julia, do you know what the DF95 stands for?
No.
It stands for Dragon Flight.
I heard that. Yes,
Yeah, I think we talked about
Yeah.
that. Okay. Yeah, we are, J. Frederick Bland, down in Texas. We're on the way to spring. And, the days now are getting longer, at least here in the Northern Hemisphere. And what more can you say, except that we also appreciated Harry Price, our Fozy Harry Price. He came on by video from Australia. He is tearing it up in the Australian 18 skiff department. Looks like he's the odds-on favorite. He and his team.
That's great.
Of the Rag and Famish Hotel team. It looks like they're odds-on favorite to win the JJ next month. That's their world championship, ostensible world championship. Bravo Zulu 2M. He's a longtime friend in Fozy. We know him from the Gov Cup, which he won. We know him from the World Match Racing, Youth Match Racing World Championship, which he won. And he's just a superb all-around sailor, as his sister Olivia, who's the Olympic silver medalist, as are his parents, Christian and Davey Pricey, who are just cool people. Now, I'm going to start every show from now on with this slide, these next two slides, by way of saying we need to continue to work as we started in our show number 805, actually before that, but we focused on parasailing on the 31st of January last month, on parasailing and getting it reinstated for the Brisbane Paralympics 2032. And so we don't lose track of that. I am going to use these two slides at the start in the A block of every future show, because as you all know, I'm a bit of a pit bull. I'm persistent, if nothing else.
God knows, yes.
What kind of a comment was that?
Oh!
When you have to get rid of the non-sailing CEO, you have to be persistent.
You do.
And we did. 2 non-sailing CEOs and some other croutons along the way. This we've got to work on, and we got to keep working on it, lest we forget Brisbane 2032. Yes, wesail.org, and we're going to help get we hope, it's an uphill battle. It's tough because as Magnus the Magnificent, Magnus Wheatley has said, he thinks world sailing is not really, they're paying this lip service, but not really up to it and not really pushing it. But we're going to push. We know some of them also involved are going to push, and John Emmett put that nice panel together for us at the end of last month, and we're going to keep at it. Okay? Good idea?
Yep.
Well, not much enthusiasm,
Well,
Julia.
because I was getting excited about Rich Fishback in the stern of Junebug and Balboa.
He might send us some food. Rich and his brother Tom. Hi, Tom and Julia from the stern of Junebug and at Balboa Yacht Club.
Yeah.
John Emmett, more than sailing, together on water. We can sail. Yes, we sail. Those are the hashtags you can see there in his chat, in his comments on the chat. And it's after 11 o'clock, 2300 in Cape Town on a Friday night, but Ryman says it's 25 Celsius, loving it. Well, enjoy your evening.
Yeah.
And Ted, go on out to the wine country there east of Cape Town and have some nice wine this weekend for us. That's a patinor, a rudderless cat sailed in the Basque Country. Okay. That is true. That is that boat that we identified, and thanks for re-identifying it for us, Fritz Mueller down in Miami. The rudderless cat sailed in the Basque Country in the Mediterranean, in and around Barcelona. Okay, what are you doing to help make this happen? 2032. Please, Fozy, you got a lot of whack with all your national governing bodies, your member national authorities of world sailing, and a lot of you have whack within world sailing. We're going to keep pushing this. Speaking of cool people and pushing things, this is our Fozy Focus for today, Friday. A Friday Fozy Focus.
Uh-oh.
Friends of Sailing Illustrated, that's what Fozy stands for, and it's about cool people as the Fozy are without exception. You know who they are, Julia?
It's our New
Does
York
this
friend.
help?
Yeah. Claire Harrington.
There's the lower third. The answer's in the slides. The USA Super Fozy, Claire Harrington, and Rick Bannero, two of our USA Super Fozy, they got together on Wednesday night in frigid Connecticut.
Oh, they did.
This note from Rick Bannero, over 50 hardy souls brave temps in the high teens in Greenwich, Connecticut Wednesday night. That's where Claire lives. A couple of great yacht clubs in Greenwich, just across the Connecticut border from New York, to see a photo presentation by our other Fozy, Rick Bannero. The best seats and the house scenes from around Long Island Sound was presented to members and guests of the Greenwich Power Squadron, America's Boating Club. Additionally, Claire Harrington, Super Fozy, and Vice Commodore of the New York Yacht Club, enjoyed the show and getting to meet a fellow Fozy in person. We love it when that happens. It's been happening a lot down in Australia. We have an AAAA today from Alistair. Claire especially liked the photos in the show of various IC-37s, New York Yacht Club's club boat, pictures of her niece, another Fozy, Allie Dinas.
I had no idea that.
Allie's, I can't tell you Allie's real name. She hides behind it, but let's just say that her name is she's a Harrington.
Oh, she is.
And Claire's late husband was a Harrington, and she and Allie are related, therefore, by marriage.
Eventually, we'll have them all put together.
Allie Dinas, who's been on the show a couple times,
Yes,
and is
indeed.
a super sailor and banker and lawyer and a very smart lady and a hell of a good sailor.
Yeah.
So Claire especially liked those photos, which I'll show you in a moment. Cheers from snowy Connecticut, concluded Rick Bannero. Thank you, Rick, very much for sending that. There are the IC-37s, just one of the many photos in Rick's superb show. We've had him on this show.
Yeah, that's a great picture.
And I commend him to any club that wants a nice photo evening in the winter, snowy winter, or in the summer for that matter. Bannero is really good. He's entertaining and a lot of fun. And there is the famous bow chick, Allie Dinas, and she does other things on the boat besides the bow. Claire Harrington's niece, Allie Dinas, is the name. That's really her pen name, so she goes by. And speaking of Bannero, we got his photos around the studio up here that came on those foam things with a magnet on the back. You stick them on the wall. You can see them over your head, Julia. And they not only help decorate the studio, but
they help the sound.
They help the sound. In fact, they're even behind you over there on the door, the Studio B door, Julia. And we appreciate Rick having sent us not one batch, but now two.
Yes.
It's a cool way to share your photos with friends because they're so easy to mount.
Sure.
I've shown this before over here behind me in the these things. Can you see that?
Yeah.
They come with a magnet on the back, so even a buffoon like myself Do you see the sticker on the wall?
Yeah.
Behind it?
Yeah.
That is a sticker that you put on the wall that matches this magnet. It's magnetic as well. So if you don't get it all lined up perfectly, you can go over there, stick it on, and still move it around without damaging the wall and get them pretty straight and sorted and look nice looking. So it's a nice way to share. And they don't cost much, according to Rick. I haven't asked him. But thank you, Rick, again. Thanks for your photo show that you did in Greenwich, Connecticut the other night with the Commodore, the Vice Commodore, soon to be Commodore, if she continues to play her cards right. She'll be the first female Commodore of New York Yacht Club. It's a big deal.
And deservedly so.
And deservedly so, having chaired the race committee for years and on and on and on. John Emmett, the push is to get sailing in the Paralympics as a demo event, yes, in 2032, but that's what we concluded, in fact, on this show on January 31st, that was the way to proceed, thanks to John and the panel that he put together, and we should all be working hard on that. Hawkins says, braved high teens, that is a lull. Yeah, it can be cold, but it's winter. I mean, I grew up in Michigan, so it's a little cold in Cleveland, Julie Aarons, 18 degrees and wind chill feels like 8. Not in San Diego, which is why I wore one of my Rain Spooner shirts in honor of our guest today, who is standing patiently by at his office at San Diego Yacht Club. There's John Rogers, and we'll get to him in a moment. Hi, John. Are you there?
Yes.
Okay.
We're excited to be here.
We're delighted to have you. We'll be right back in a moment. So that is our lead-in here at the end of the A block. We always ask, what are we celebrating today, Julia?
Oh, heaven only knows.
Well, what happened last night? You watched it.
Yeah, I did.
We watched this game, and it was a fabulous hockey game. And I use this not because it's a sport with which I'm a lifelong player, and I'm in love with. What?
Yes, which you are.
I am. I played all my life, and you play where your equipment is. I'm not playing here in San Francisco because my equipment's in Ann Arbor, Michigan. But you can play most anywhere, including here in San Francisco, including in San Diego, John. When I was living down there, we were able to play even down there.
Were you?
But yeah, there are a bunch of military guys, of course, in San Diego, Marines and Navy and so on. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them grew up in places like Michigan or Minnesota or tell me where, Massachusetts, where they played hockey, and they have a big adult league, even in sunny San Diego, where the average daytime temperature is 72 degrees year-round.
Thank you very much.
Beautiful. This game last night was fabulous. It was the finals. It was between Canada and the U.S. There's been some controversy, as you Brits would say, leading up to this game. But the Canadians came from behind. They were, actually they weren't. They did. It was 1-0 Canada, then it was 1-1, then 2-1 U.S., and then the Canadians tied it up. And then they won in sudden death overtime. None of this Mickey Mouse shots on goal stuff. And it was the full-on old school National Hockey League thing. And the crowd was fabulous in the Boston Garden, the TD Garden.
They were very much alive.
Very respectful of both countries' national anthems. And the news reports in summary, the Maple Leaf is still waving proudly on top of the hockey world. They win virtually all of the Olympic and other international championships they have for years. Connor McDavid, who's without much question, the best hockey player in the world, scored 8 minutes, 18 seconds into the overtime. And Canada, in fact, I think it was 12 minutes into the overtime. And Canada won its 4th consecutive best-on-best international tournament, defeating the U.S. 3-2 in the championship game of the Four Nations face-off at TD Garden on Thursday. Now, the Four Nations were Sweden, Finland, Canada, and the U.S., widely regarded as the four best professional hockey countries. The Czech Republic is good. Germany is good. There's some other countries that are good, but those four consistently are good and send players, including Russia, send players to the National Hockey League here in Canada and the U.S., which is so far the big enchilada in the world. Now, why am I bringing this all up? Well, because there's some lessons to be learned for our beloved sport. First, the winning goal in overtime last night.
This defensive zone face-off against McDavid. And off the drop, McDavid went forward and nearly got a shot on. Carr sends it around. Martin waiting. Connor McDavid scores! for Canada!
Yes, Stingray, Governor Trudeau was
Yes.
thrilled. It was fabulous. And sudden death was an interesting question. It's the way the hockey should be done. This is not Hockey Illustrated, John Emmett, but this is the way international sport, in my never so humble opinion, should be played, Julia, because
Full on.
full on, but nationalism.
Still the best.
And the Americans were, shocked and depressed after they'd beaten Canada in the round robin phase the other night. But nonetheless, Canada came back for a thrilling win. I'm so proud of them, and congratulations to them. Morris Stevens, who's up in Canada, saying, what a game. But here's the point, Commodores, ladies and gentlemen, is that everyone on the Canadian team was a Canadian citizen.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple guys that are dual citizens that maybe were born in the U.S. playing for Canada and vice versa.
Yeah.
But they're citizens. They got passports. They're yada, yada. Everybody on the U.S. team likewise. Likewise with Sweden and Finland. And they're playing with enthusiasm.
For their country.
Exactly. As JFK would have said, with vigor.
But bigger.
With vigor
Yeah.
for their country. And that made this special. Unlike the all-star games that go on now in baseball and football and some of the other sports that are basketball, that are just croutonic. I mean, croutonic. And this is still what's wrong with our sport. Until we get back to the way the America's Cup was run, when everybody on the American, Dennis Conner's team was an American, everybody on the Australian team in 1983 was an Aussie, and everybody, same in Sail GP. Okay, I understand Russell's trying to help some teams along by making some exceptions.
But he is trying to do that.
He is trying to do it, but you need to do it in reality for this kind of a cool event to happen. And we are to the point where in our country, the American Sail GP team ought to be all Americans, not one Aussie.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now I understand the guy is, he's okay. But
Do
without getting into specifics, this sells.
Yep.
This is fun to watch.
Yes.
The thrill of victory, the agony of defeat, especially when you're playing for your country. And remember, the NHL, the National Hockey League, would not let their players go to the Olympics for the last, 2 or 3 Olympics, so Winter Olympics. They are going to allow them to go next year to the Winter Olympics again, which will reinvigorate the Olympics. It'll be fantastic.
Yes.
Okay, so they're talking now about Ted Ryman says, I like hockey. It's like sword fighting on ice. So I don't know about that. Do hockey players sail? Yes, Pedro Foiling Sailor, a.k.a. Peter Stevenson. A lot of hockey players sail, especially those of us that grew up in the Great Lakes area, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, and the hotbeds of hockey around New York and Boston, to say nothing of Larry Lemieux in Canada, who played NHL and was an Olympic. I don't know if he won a medal or not, but a Canadian Olympic sailor. So yeah, there's a lot of crossover. We need to have nationalism back in our sport, in the Cup and beyond, in my never so humble opinion. Julia?
I think it would gain a lot more interest.
It was a fabulous event. Bravo Zulu to the Canucks, to the Canadians. Larry Kennedy said, water is water, frozen or not. Well said. Well said. The Four Nations Championship, this face-off, Four Nations face-off championship game last night, Canada versus USA. Canada won 3-2 in overtime. It was fabulous. Bravo effing Zulu to the NHL and to that group for finally producing something really cool and really interesting, like most of our foes are. And we are also celebrating them today. Thank you very much, as we celebrate at the head of every show. Those of you, especially who've joined via Patreon as a patron, we appreciate very much your support, indeed, giving us a few bucks a month to help keep our studio on the air, Julie, with our increasingly expensive streaming fees and having to buy equipment from time to time and keep us on the air in broadcast quality, 1080p, 60 frames a second. We're doing 30 frames a second, but we can do 60. We can even now do 4K, but what's the point? Reinvigorate the Olympics just like kites and foils, Joe Cool is saying. I had some really interesting Joe Cool comments after the last show.
Oh, good.
Several shows. Thank you, Joe, for coming on today again. Slingers is a U.S. citizen. A South African-born cousin of mine has passports from 4 countries.
All right.
Stingray was born in South Africa, even though he lives up in Seattle. Okay, let's go to John Emmett's report. John Emmett, of course, is our regular contributor via his coaching corner. And here's his report. He's still in Australia. He and,
He's enjoying it.
he and Golden Lily are still in Australia. I think living with Alistair Murray.
That's not hard duty.
Hi, Tom, Julia, and all the Fozy. If you haven't done so already, now's time to share the content. And today's John Emmett's Coaching Corner is very much about keel boats. Now, perhaps it's not completely clear, but there's more J70s here than you can shake a stick at. In fact, I'm not quite sure I know what the collective name for J70s are. But I'm here at Sandringham Yacht Club, and you see in the background we have, I think we call it a veranda. That was only put in last year, maybe last November, so you've got that really nice sunny space, which is also sheltered from the wind. So that's all new from when I was looking at being here for the 2020 Olympic trials, that world. But with so many J70s here, and this is a boat that they've decided to use to bring the youth into sailing. So they've got 6 brand new J70s, and they thought long and hard about which boat to use. And I think the reason it works so well on this bay is they actually tolerate the sea state probably better than a lot of small keel boats. And Sydney Harbour, Melbourne, very different. And this is why I think the J70 is very popular here. And the J class as well, they're going to have their J24 Worlds, will be in 2026 next year. God, get my head around that. And I know at least one young Chinese lady who will be very keen to do that. You see lots of people in the background. I'm filming this of the afternoon series. So very active clubs. And I probably can't talk for too long because everybody in the boat is now up in the bar having a beer for that little prize giving. But I think the keel boats are very accessible, especially for youth sailing, because you can really sail in almost any conditions. And I think one of the programs that we can do to get more people involved in sailing is the opportunity for people who've never sailed before to come and sail with experienced members. And actually there's a lot of community here, and I have to thank Alistair Murray very much for putting me up. But I see the same people sailing 7 o'clock in the evening as you cycle with at 6 o'clock in the morning. And it's quite funny to see them in completely different clothes. But I'm going to wrap it up there. Comments really welcome. And I just think, as Brett said, we're just trying to make the tent as large as possible. There's no need to draw a line on different types of sailing. There's no need to put people in a box. We're all sailors and we're lucky to have such a fantastic sport. Hopefully, I'll see you on the show.
It looks like Lily was his camera operator today. Nice
probably.
camera work.
One was
Now here,
definitely a day for
I
patience.
just got a setup for this. Now John is in Australia not because he's on the perpetual. Well, he is on the perpetual summer program.
Yeah.
He's smarter than all of us. He gets summer in the northern hemisphere and southern in the southern hemisphere, at least this year. But he's down there for a particular reason, and here's why.
One was definitely a day for patience, and a long sail out to the starting area unfortunately resulted in no races for the fleet. This means we've got 3 days to go, and everybody will be super keen to get on the water and get racing tomorrow. The committee kept us out as long as they could, but it's important to get back in time for beer and barbecue. Looking forward to lots more racing to come here at Westport Yacht Club. Wow, so it's been a difficult first day, but I've got a female Ilka 4 sailor here. That's one of the fleets that we really, really want to grow. Can you tell us who you are, where you come from, and why you sail the Ilka 4?
I'm Sandy Kiernan and I'm from Sydney. I sail at Northbridge Sailing Club, and I sail the Ilka 4 because I'm quite a bit lighter than most of the other people in my club, and I find it difficult.
And can you just tell us a little bit about the Masters circuit? Because people can't see off camera, but people are already tucking into a oppie full of beer, and there's some sausages being sizzled.
It's lots of fun, lots of nice people, plenty of conversation, get to go around the countryside and sail at different people's clubs.
I mean, personally, I love this on the beach. I don't quite like the pulling the boat up the beach at the end of the day, but the fact we can all launch and all come in is just fantastic. Can you just tell us how you would encourage other female sailors to come? Because that's really important.
It is a lot of fun, and I'd encourage you to come. Lots of nice people with lots of good tips, and it's just a really nice female community that's growing very quickly, which is lovely.
Awesome. That's just what I want to hear. Thanks for your time. I'm sure you want to get out your wetsuit.
Great. Thank you, I do.
I'm not sure if I cut off his opening words, which is, I'm here at the ILCA Australian Laser Masters. And he's, I believe, John's he's on, he can comment, but he's racing in this
I think he is,
as well. And it goes on for the next 3 days. And the Western, what is it called? The Western Port Yacht Club. I don't think John quite used the name correctly, but all these clubs down there, it's no mystery why Australia has such a great sailing culture, because, of course, first of all, they're almost all the major cities are on the water. And sailing that's how they all got there.
Right.
Crooks or not. Oh, come on. I had to say that, but that's how basically everybody got there, or at least their forebears did, because it's a big island. It's a continental island. But man, oh man, are they good. And the clubs are so welcoming. Yes. Everybody's welcome. And all the clubs are doing, as we keep seeing in these various reports, whether they're John's or Alistair's or otherwise, doing everything they can to make people feel welcome from all walks of life and go sailing, go yacht racing.
Yes.
Clayton Embley wants ice boating in the Winter Olympics. We talked about that when I was head of the U.S. delegation many years ago. And it's just the logistics of that are very difficult indeed. But radio-controlled sailing, RC yachting. Let's see what today's guest, John Rogers, has to say, because it could be in the Olympics without any problem at all. Thanks to John Emmett for his reports, plural. John Emmett Sailing, get to the front of the fleet.
Have a great time in Oz.
He is I'm going to show you some pictures from Alistair in a little bit later, and he and Lily both are clearly having a lot of fun. How can you not have fun with Alistair Murray?
I know.
And you've seen the bar in both of his houses, both his Melbourne house and out in Metung. Okay. Ken Sabin is on. Hello, Ken, from the western end of Lake Erie, where it's snowy and it's a beautiful day, he says. I just want to go back to a comment from an old friend who was one of the best windsurfers in this country, Randy Gallman. Has his comment left the chat? It's right at the very top of the comments. And Randy, who is a few years younger than I, but I haven't seen him in maybe 50 years. I don't know, a long time. Tom, I remember playing broomstick hockey, broomball with you at Squaw Valley. We were at an Olympic training camp, a USYRU run clinic. Peter Iser was there. The late, great Tom Blackaller was there. I schooled Tom on the racing rules. Randy was 14 years old. He and I were roommates, I think. David Chapman was there, and he is still around. Randy is, and sailing, and he's sailing. With the clinic was in lasers, but Randy was and probably still is, a fabulous windsurfer, if I recall correctly. He's probably sailing bigger boats as well. So nice to see you on, Randy Gallman. Let's get to our guest today, John Rogers. He's standing, as I said, patiently by at the San Diego Yacht Club. Welcome again, Coach John, head coach at the San Diego Yacht Club.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Tell us about San Diego Yacht Club. What's going on in your beautiful, what some people call, in fact, they call locally America's finest city?
Well, our junior program is a big endeavor. We had 487 kids in the summer program over 7 weeks.
Wow.
Oh, gosh.
And we have kids traveling all over the country, racing and everything. But they got the Etchells Pacific Coast Championship going on this weekend. Jeff Johnson here runs an amazing race committee, volunteer team, and they run a lot of regattas all year long. The place is cranking all the time. We just got a couple new electric ribs that are kind of new to the world of ribs, and the club really has a mission of doing environmentally good things and being on the cutting edge of anything they think is going to promote the sport.
John, we've said before on this show, and mind your headspace. I always have to remind our guests. mind your head. We try. This is the shot for those of you in the pre-show. This is the shot that we try to get our guests. Those of you who've been on the show know, and we put the three of us there. Julie's got this massive head because she went to Stanford and she's so smart. We try to get all three of us to look more or less the same. And we have a team of 25 people in the closet back there,
We
Julia.
do.
Huh? Back there in the
We have to wake
control
'em
room
up.
that get us all on the same proverbial page. John, this is a fabulous club, and we've said on this show before, one of the reasons why San Diego, it's not just something in the water, but the history and tradition of SDYC going back to Malin Burnham and of course Dennis and Lowell North and on and on and on. But you're able to sail year round. But even more importantly, I think, is that you've got three main sailing areas. You've got outside Point Loma in the ocean where it's fairly light for the amount of bump you often have. I having lived in San Diego for on and off for years. And then you've got the north or I guess it's the West Bay, and right outside of Shelter Island, between Shelter Island and the city front, and you've got with the base, the naval base over there on to the I guess south, and the airport to the north, and you got that Central Bay area in which to sail, which is flat water. It's like lake, and it's shifty, it's lake sailing, and then you even go south of the bridge where you used to be when you were the coach at Coronado Yacht Club. Three distinct, very cool sailing areas. Is that why? What is it that makes San Diego year after year put out so many super sailors?
Well, I really think that the sport of sailing requires a level of patience. And I think when you're sailing in the ocean, the swells really change the apparent wind angle so much that you really have to learn how to sail out there in those conditions. A little bit choppy, but the swell is the thing that really affects most people when they visit us. And I think growing up here in the ocean, it really trains us to be able to go anywhere. We can go to Barcelona or any place that has swells and be quite adept at it. And then, South Bay is just the best place to sail other than Long Beach in Southern California. I was lucky to grow up in the military housing right there till I was about 13. So that beach was my backyard there. And the amount of hours we spent out there in Lidos and Rebels and everything. But South Bay is flat water inside the bay and generally a touch windier.
And why do you how are you able to attract nearly 500 kids into the summer program at SDYC? What are the various programs you have? And is it true you don't even have to be a member of SDYC to get in there into the junior program?
Yeah, yacht clubs in California are public property, so you're required to be open to the public. Our program is primarily members, but San Diego Yacht Club is got a culture of competition, but they also have a culture of wanting people to come to the yacht club. So they're interested in it all. We start them at 5 years old, little 3 kids in a boat with a coach called Sea Urchins, and we hardwire them there. But really, we're just our main goal is retention. And, for instance, we greet every kid when they arrive. We show interest in kids. We don't drill kids really hard. We ramp up the drilling as they age. We try to encourage them to enjoy the racing, to enjoy the social side, we develop them to be good teammates. And kids really, they want to please. And so we tap into that without coddling them too much. We do take it easy on them. We play quite a bit of games, surprisingly, in our program. I'm very big on whimsical things. I'm very big on the Disneyland atmosphere, but also having the competitive, providing all the competitive opportunities also. The club is very kind of racing is in our culture.
But it's more than that, because if a kid doesn't want to race, they can come and enjoy junior sailing and learn to sail. I, having been a member of the club and watched all this nowhere nearly as intensively as you have been doing now for, what, you've been head coach since 2022?
Yeah, 2021 of October is when I started here.
But you also then have an elite program, right?
Yeah, so on the point of challenging kids that are not racers, we have a curriculum that I created that we use here that's achievement based. So as kids pass little skills, we celebrate that with them. So we don't celebrate just the competition, which happens in youth sports all the time. And then we have a group that's run by JJ Fetter. It was funded by fundraising by the late Bill Waite. And High Performance Youth Sailing collaborates with us, and they help us run our laser and 29er program. So they help keep the kids' costs down. JJ and I talk regularly about how we get kids to the East Coast for the Orange Bowl and Midwinter's East, and how do we get to San Francisco, and how do we support these kids. And HPYS helps cut their costs, and mostly it just brings in world-class coaches. Our coaches are almost all former youth world medalists or Olympic sailors.
Well, JJ herself, of course, was the silver medalist in '92 in Barcelona in the 470 class, along with Pam Healy. I having chaired the jury that heard the final protest, the panel that heard their protest. And I've known JJ and her parents since forever, and great folks, very major contributors to the sport there. Shall we talk about radio-controlled yachting sailing?
There we go.
Because that's what we're really here. And I suspect there's a lot of folks on here. Thanks and welcome to all of you for joining us. John, this is a shot from, not only do you have the three main racing areas there that we just discussed in and around San Diego Bay, but you have a special model boat pond. Tell us about this.
Yeah, the model yacht pond it was part of the construction of Mission Bay in the 1950s. Mission Bay is a man-made bay. The pond is connected to the bay, so it's actually got a valve on it that allows the tide in and out, and so it is saltwater. And they have several fleets there. They have what are called Solings, Odoms, IOMs, or the 3-meter boats, and then the DF95. So those are the 4 primary race fleets.
Let me point this out here on our map on camera 4, because those of you who know San Diego will know the airport. This is downtown, the city front. We were just talking about racing in the Central Bay. San Diego Yacht Club is over here by Shelter Island. That island is what that's called, the La Playa, the beach area here. And then up where my daughter Meg lives here in Sunset Cliffs, but in Ocean Beach, OB. And then you go across is that the San Diego River? Is that what that's called?
It is, yeah.
San Diego River, and you go into Mission Bay. This area was created. It was a marshy area and created back in the 50s, the early 50s, right, Julie? Do you remember that?
I do, because I know the guys who did it.
You do?
Yeah.
You probably headhunted them at some point.
No.
Well, in any event, so there's this mission, and this is fabulous because there's the Mission Bay Yacht Club, which is very active with all manner of mostly smaller boats. But here in the middle of this central island is the model yacht pond. And I didn't know there was a valve that lets water in and out of there, John.
Yeah, the valve right now is damaged. So we got the pond is a little bit low, but it doesn't really matter. We're able to sail in there. And it's a really neat feature. It's really it sits almost perfectly east and west, and anybody who comes to San Diego, it's a perfect place to get a lunch and go sit down by there and have a nice little relaxation too.
Well, it's just a park, right? It's technically Mission Bay Park or something, isn't it? That whole area?
Yes, it is. It's part of the Mission Bay Park system.
Okay. Well, we're going to get back to that in a moment, but tell us some more about you. Thanks to some of our sources, this one actually came from you. This is a picture of some famously cool people. That's you on the left, is it not?
Yeah, that's me in the ABYC trophy presentation in bare feet, sandy bare feet, corduroy pants. And Stacy Zabo got first in that regatta. She was 9 years old there with the bigger turkey, and I was 13 at the time over there with my littler turkey. Yeah.
So that is circa 1980. Yourself, we don't know who this person is second from the left, and then Stacy Zabo, whose husband is multiple Star World champion?
Once or twice, yeah. And I coach their daughter, I coach her. She's 11 years old. She's on our Sabbath team, yeah.
Okay, let's talk for a moment, because when you sent that to me, you weren't 100% sure, or you had a typo that it was at Balboa Yacht Club. You know that I love Balboa Yacht Club, but that is actually Adra Kober. Julia, you knew Adra's husband,
yes, Chuck
who
Kober.
was Chuck Kober, who was Stanfordite.
Yeah.
Went to Stanford. And Chuck was president of U.S. Sailing when I was executive director, and also was president during the 1984 Olympics. Now, Adra Kober, there in the Blazers, talking about Vice Commodore Harrington finally becoming, or a female, a woman becoming Commodore finally this December, we hope, of New York Yacht Club. Adra Kober, before it was fashionable
Yes.
to have female Commodores, Julia,
I know.
she was the first Commodore of a major yacht club in the country, as far as I'm aware. And I was executive director of USYU in those days, in the early 80s. Used to stay with Chuck and Adra at their home. In fact, did through and up to and through the Olympics at their home in Long Beach. She was so quietly competent that it wasn't a matter of finding a woman to be Commodore of the Alamitos Bay Yacht Club. She's the best person around to be Commodore, and she no doubt was.
Yeah.
And did fantastic stuff, including she was the head of protocol, not some guy. She, Adra, was the head of protocol for the 1984 Olympics in Long Beach, dealing with all of the dignitaries, including...
I didn't know that.
Yeah, she was in charge of, and she would grab me and Leslie and whomever and say, hey, we got some young people. I need you to take care of Randy Andy. She didn't call him that. It was Prince Andrew from Great Britain. Or I need you to take care of His Serene Highness from Monaco, who was then the Crown Prince.
Oh, yes. That was more difficult.
Well, no. He was avid in boating. They were both, very prim and proper and quite interested in the Olympics. And we went out with them on the water and said, here's the star, here's the fin, here's what we did. And she was in charge of all of that and did, no surprise, a fabulous job. The name of this regatta, John, is the something Turkey Trot, or what is it called?
It's been a regatta going on for 50 years or something. It's called the Turkey Day Regatta, and it put, ABYC puts more sailors on the water per square foot than almost any yacht club I know of.
ABYC, meaning Alamitos Bay Yacht Club up in Long Beach.
Yes, exactly. Turkey Day Regatta.
And that's at our Thanksgiving time in November?
Yeah, it's still going on, and they you get a massive turkey meal, and that's been going on. The members make the dinner, and everybody sits around up there and crams in and has a full turkey dinner, and then the next day's lunch is all the leftovers.
And and that's what you've got in your hands. Those are the prizes. Was a turkey?
Yeah, you take home frozen turkey and throw it in your freezer, and then you pull it out a couple years later and remember you had it.
I love turkey, as you know, Julie. I can eat turkey. Well, in fact, I had a turkey sandwich on Wednesday when I went down to Chestnut Street. I went to the deli. I had a turkey sandwich. I love turkey. Ted Ryman, who's a Brit living in Cape Town in the Republic of South Africa, said we camped at Mission Bay for 3 weeks in 1980. So same time as his photo. Great place. Okay, next photo. John, who's this and when was this taken?
Oh, yeah, we have a famous Naples Sabbath race every year called the Dutch Shoe Marathon. Gets about 160 people in it, including adults. Our yacht club alone puts over 90 boats out there between kids and adults, but it's a 7-mile race from San Diego Yacht Club to Coronado Yacht Club, and that's my oldest now. She's 21 now, but that was when Maisie was 4 years old.
Wow.
And the Naples Sabbath is the SoCal version of what?
It is a boat that's really nothing like an Opti. An Opti is a heavy air boat that handles open seas. The Naples Sabbath is really a boat that turns into a monster at about 16. It just goes bowed down. It's really a tough boat to sail. So it develops a lot of great sailors, because if you can sail a Sabbath 16 to 18, you're a good sailor.
And it has not a centerboard, but a sideboard, a lee board.
Yeah, it's a quite inefficient boat, but it is a lee board on the side, and the boat teaches you how to establish flow. So if you don't establish flow over the boards and the sails in a Naples Sabbath, you're between a 1/10 and 3 or 4/10 of a knot slower than your competitors. So you really have to learn how to, before you go up, you must go down a little. You have to get that boat moving a little.
Which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're only going 4 knots, well, how fast do these boats go top speed? 3, 4?
Yeah. The kind of the average speed is between over the bottom is probably 1.9 to 2.6 or something.
So
It's-
that's your now 21-year. Sorry, I interrupted. Go ahead. Finish the thought,
Yeah,
please.
21-year-old now who is doing quite well. And I had a special little maple sabot with a little canoe shape, the bow swept up. So she could stand in the front of that thing and we wouldn't really Pearl. That's my favorite picture. Yeah. Right there.
Now,
Great picture.
Isn't your wife isn't she an educator? Is she a school principal or superintendent or?
Yeah, she's been an administrator in Coronado now for over 20 something years. We don't live in Coronado for that reason. I worked over there for 24 years but she's the elementary school principal at Silver Strand Elementary. And that's where I went to school as a kid,
Wow.
kindergarten through 5th grade. It's in the military housing over in Coronado, halfway down to Imperial Beach.
So down near the hotel where I was last Thursday or the week before Thursday.
Yes.
What's the name of that? The Lowe's Coronado Hotel.
Yes, where the National Sailing Symposium was flat land when I was a young kid in the 70s, and we hiked all the way through there and a lot of fishing and sailing Lidos and Rebels down in there and stuff.
The Strand.
Silver
Okay.
Strand.
Silver Strand. We got another picture of you as a youngster in what, 1995?
Yeah, I've been doing snipes. I sailed snipes for the first time when I was 13 with Jeff Lenhart, and he went on to be a world champion. Earl Elms was like a mentor to me. He didn't know it, but I copied Earl Elms. I studied Earl Elms when I was in my late teens. And then I've sailed with a lot of people in snipes. I've sailed with Bart Hackworth, Doug Hart, Bill Hardesty, and Doug and I had a very successful career, winning nationals, and we got 3rd at the Worlds in '95 and 4th at the '97 Worlds together.
Great.
Well, Jeff Lenhart's, I guess, daughter, right? Becky Lenhart,
Yes.
who is one of my favorite people in the whole world. There, I said it. Who is our racing director at Balboa Yacht Club. She runs very quietly, very subtly, and she is superb. In fact, every time she gets a job offer at some other place for more money, people like Andy Rose and others quietly go behind the scenes and say, "Hey, Becky, what
do that.
What do we need to keep you here?"
Yeah.
And a headhunter like you, Julia, shows up and tries to pull her away.
Oh, how could that be?
We persecute you and kick you out and to keep you away from Becky Lenhart.
Mhm.
Okay. Do I have one more picture? No, I don't. I now have a video that tell us who produced this video, all these overheads and so on.
Yeah, at the pond, we've got just what you need in these fleets is dedicated volunteers, and a guy named Gil Jansky, Mission Bay Yacht Club member, has been sailing at the pond for 30 years. He's a wing foiler and all kinds of stuff, but he used to produce sports television, and just a sweetheart man, high on life. And yeah, he volunteers all the time, but he also does quite a bit of footage for us.
So he produced these videos. This is really B-roll. There's no audio. That you can hear some natural sound, ambient sound. But tell us what's going on here in Mission Bay.
Yeah, we stand on that side of the Mission Bay Pond. It's not really wide, but it's perfectly wide. We usually race in fleets using a heat management system for big events like this, where you only have to have 14 boats per fleet. But yeah, that's just that looks like a nationals race from a couple of years. I think that was 3 or 4 years ago, because that's right there, flailing right there in the middle is me. And it's my old sails on there. So that must have been the 2022 nationals.
Now, these are DF95s or something else?
No, these are the DF95s. Yeah, they're the Dragonflight 95. They're 950 millimeters. Yeah.
And what do these boats cost?
They just under $500, and they pretty much are functioning out of the box. You make a few upgrades to them. You get a different battery, and that's about it. All you really need is just a different rechargeable battery, as opposed to what they send you, where you have to buy AA's all the time.
And same courses where we saw you going around a windward mark and then an offset mark, and then back downhill, and then what's the shape of the course normally?
Yeah. The standard course is called a medium course. That's my boat 44 there with the orange top there. But medium course is windward, go down around the start line, back to windward, down to a gate, and then go finish.
Now, what are the bibs? Why are they wearing the USA 55 bibs?
Yeah, I think those are mostly for show, I believe. But at national regattas, you do wear something like a card or a bib on, and I'm not sure exactly. There's got to be a reason.
The
Maybe
judges?
maybe people have to be able to see your numbers to judge it, to if there's an umpire, because sometimes they'll have an umpire, not very regularly. Sometimes they'll have a person standing on the beach calling fouls or just calling contact. That's all. Calling contact.
Gordon Smith is asking now, what can you actually adjust on the boat? You're trimming the main and the jib and the rudder. What else?
Yeah, in a minute here, I'll probably turn my boat on and show you. But all you have control of is the main and the jib go in and out together on one sail winch or one sail servo, and then you have a rudder adjustment. So you only have two controls.
And do you ever have RF interference between two transmitters that are controlling both? How do you separate? How do you?
Very seldom do you have something like that occur, really. But you can get pretty far away. You can get a couple 100 yards away, and it'll. But once it starts to go out, your boat could sail off by itself pretty easily. Yeah.
And how hard, John? I mean, you're obviously a world-class sailor, and there's a lot of people on here watching who've probably done this. I could ask everybody, but I'd venture a guess that probably half the people watching live right now have probably done this. And I mentioned, I think at the top of the show, Claire Harrington has a DF95 because they have a very active fleet at, as you mentioned, Sail Newport, where your nationals are, the DF95 nationals in October, did you say? In Newport, Rhode Island. And they also RC, what's the term? RC yacht, RC race? What's the term of art?
Yep, an RC yacht.
RC yacht. I love it. This is yacht racing. Julia, this is yacht racing, right?
It's about, absolutely.
Thumbs up. So, John, what you've got is off the front, the big dock at Harbor Court in Newport, at New York Yacht Club's Harbor Court. They're DF95ing, if you'll forgive the expression, regularly there as well. So if New York Yacht Club is doing this and little clubs all around the world are doing this, this must be one of the most popular, one design classes in the world?
It's really grown amazing. I think they just hit 24, almost 2,500 sail numbers issued, in just over 5 years. So
wow.
So that's not as big as the laser class or probably the sunfish class and one or two others. But
Yep.
for a boat that's only been around for 5 years instead of 50 years, that's a hell of a lot of boats, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And Sail Newport is where they sailed them mostly back there. I would argue that's one of the strongest fleets already. I've seen Mike Topa racing. Obviously, Ken Reed races them, and he's outstanding at them. Brad Reed. The Newport fleet, and I love Newport, Rhode Island, so I'm planning on going in October.
Show us your boat, if you would, please.
Yeah. So let's see if you can see this here.
Great, perfect.
And I will turn it on. What you have is a transmitter like this, and we turn that on. All we do to turn on the boat is a little on-off switch right here. Yeah, and I think you can see the sails go in and out there.
Mm-hmm.
See if I can show that better.
Show us the control that brings the sails in and out, please.
Yeah, here we go. So the rudder turns. Hold on.
You need an assistant, John, somebody to hold your yacht.
Yeah.
There you go. That's the rudder is your right thumb. And then the other thumb goes up and down. It's kind of hard to hold both, but the other one just goes up and down, and the sails go in and out.
Cool.
Just like that.
And it's as simple as that.
I'm still figuring out how to work the camera there. Yep.
No, that's perfect. We got a good view. Can you hold, John? Can you hold there's the sail servo, sail control servo. So it's just a lever arm, is it?
Exactly right. So the sail servo is this orange one. And the battery there is that red battery. And the black thing next to the red battery is what's called the receiver. That's what receives the transmission from the transmitter.
Copy.
And then the rudder servo is inside there as well. I don't know if I'm doing any service here, but
Oh yeah.
and
Oh,
then
yeah, yeah.
sort of there you go. So that's what you have control of.
Can you show us the controller up close? Set your boat back down if it's asking too much, and yeah, just show it right up close.
Yeah.
Are there multiple manufacturers of the boats and of the equipment, or is it one design? How does that work?
The boats are completely one design, made by a company called Joysway. They come from China. There are different dealers around the world. I know in the United States, the primary dealer is in Texas, Chuck LeMahieu. He's a remote control lover. The guy has been doing what's called IOMs and other boats for years. And then, he took this on as being the dealer because, he really loves the sport. It's obvious that the DF95 could be a great feeder boat to what's called the IOM. But really, the boat was designed so that people could get in much cheaper than the IOM. The IOM
What is the IOM? What does that stand for, and what's it all about?
It's an international 1 meter. It's a 1 meter long. It's a much more expensive boat where you can individualize things more. You have a little more leeway on the gear you can use and hull shapes, and there's got to be 200 different designs of IOMs.
So it's a box rule boat?
Yes, it's a box rule boat, and the latest ones are quite wild that have come out of Croatia. They've got really high freeboard in the middle on the side, and waterline length has been maximized. So those new IOMs, but an IOM is a heavier, faster, carries momentum. It's much more detailed. You have shrouds, so there's just a lot more going into it.
Are there other significant classes besides the DF, the Dragonflight, and the IOM, or is that about it?
Yeah, there's some variety of classes around. There's Solings are pretty popular in different venues. The Laser is pretty popular. There's one that they have here at San Diego Yacht Club, the CR914. They're not real popular around the States. Let's see, Solings, Odoms. There's a boat called Odoms that are a little smaller version of an IOM, a little cheaper. Those are really sweet little boats. So, yeah,
well, it's popular and growing. We know that you must know Mary Longpree, the super snapper, the superb photographer from our club in Newport Beach, Balboa Yacht Club. And she says they have 5 RC lasers at our ranch in Sedona down in Arizona. She lives in Newport Beach, but they have a winter type home down there in Arizona. We play on our lake there, Sedona Yacht Club, they call it. What are these lasers that she's talking about?
Yeah, they're a little laser with a little bulb keel on them, and they're pretty good little boats. They don't do quite as well, in my opinion. The DF95 just seems to be such a well-rounded boat for light air to heavy air. And some other boats struggle in the real light air.
John, are there foiling radio-controlled yachts yet? Because Gordon Smith says, come on, gang, we could stick foils on these.
Well, there have been many people who have tried foils on these and spinnakers on remote control boats and everything. There is a thing called the Dragonflight or Dragon something, a trifoiler. So Joysway has produced a kit that if somebody's really energetic, they can get the trifoiler, and it takes about it's at least 8 knots to get it foiling. So if you sail in a real light air venue, don't get one because you'll just be sailing in displacement mode all the time. But if you sail in a windy venue, the trifoilers are pretty unbelievable.
Wow. Well, see, Gordon asked, I think, a tongue-in-cheek question, and he got an answer. There is a is that like the old Hobie trifoiler? Is that what it looks like?
Kind of, yeah. It looks like it looks like 3 DF95s bolted together with foil.
So $400 or $500 rather for a boat. Commodore Steve Atkins in Connecticut is asking how much is a new set of sails, and I guess we'd also ask how often do you have to replace the sails?
Yeah, I still have sails that are 3-4 years old. The stock sails are pretty darn good, and believe it or not, somewhere between I think $60 to replace the main and the jib.
That's it.
And then private sails, up to, I mean, if you're spending more than $100 on your private sales, 120, you're probably, that just gets to be too much for most people. The sales, all you can do is change the luff curve on these sails. You can't do any broad seaming or anything. So even the custom made sails are pretty much exactly the same. I did break a rule that I had. I'm all about using all the stock equipment, but I did get some sails from a friend named Jess, and they do seem to be a little bit faster than the stock. But I have sets of stock sails that are 3 years old, 4 years old.
How hard, John, how hard are these boats to sail? I mean, I've sailed them, but not really competitively, nothing like you all are doing. But you know what it's like to go on a driving simulator, an F1 car simulator for the first time. They're so twitchy and so difficult. And I've seen people try to sail RC yachts, and they're all over the proverbial map, all over the waterfront. How difficult are they to sail? And that's the next question is, you mentioned Brad Reed, Kenny Reed. Are the people who are the super sailors in regular boats and normal boats also the super sailors in RC boats, or is it quite a different field of expertise?
It is similar to that. Mark Gollison is one of the top 2 or 3 in the country. He's from Long Beach. But you'll be surprised. There's some scientists, people that did aerodynamics when they're younger and they got into sailing later in life, and they really can spend the time at, primping their boat and spending time practicing and everything. There's some scientist people that did.
Hang on. You said printing their boat.
Primping.
Primping. Okay, so, okay, got it. Primping their boat.
Yep. So it's kind of similar, but there are some people that were not sailors that grew up sailing that are quite good at these boats. Sailing the boats is not hard. People have to take a deep breath when they get into these boats, because remote control sailing comes with water that's usually in very disturbed areas from trees and buildings. And so the wind doesn't, it's not like a big arrow in the sky. The wind is swirling and dancing. And so some people can get quite frustrated because the wind is quite shifty just in nature and in our sport. But surprisingly, these boats, you can get to the point where you're almost not touching the sail control or the rudder upwind. The boat is so balanced. If you've really taken the time, it can be so balanced, it's sailing itself.
Well, that's apropos, 2 of our smarter fozy that in the chat. Steve Groover is saying RC is not about steering the boat. It is about the setup, so the boat is balanced and you don't need to steer. Excuse me. Oh. And of course, that's like a big boat as well. Peter Taylor in New York, who must be doing some RC boating as well, yachting, saying really important to have the boat well set up, as you cannot move weight around as you would on a full-size dinghy.
And Stingray.
Yeah. And I agree with that statement a little bit. If I did give recommendations to people that are pretty good sailors, vision is hard, but I would recommend Telltales. A lot of people sail by angle of heel. And the problem with that is most of those people end up footing off too much because they're looking to, having Telltales really helps you stay on the wind. And you're right, though, your steering is very, very finite. And, the setup takes some time. I'm a believer that I set the boat up in under 10 knots, almost exactly the same all the time. And then if I don't place well, I blame it on myself. I try not to make too many adjustments.
Julia, you were reading a comment from Stingray?
Yeah. Stingray says he spent $500 on his Victoria years ago and then $1,500 for custom sails, and it was completely unnecessary.
John, what is a Victoria?
Oh, yeah. Victoria is a pretty popular class around. I'm not sure how much a Victoria weighs, but I think it weighs about 27 pounds. Maybe somebody can go in there, and it's not really that long. I'm guessing, a little more than a meter long, So there's some heavy Solings and Victorias and Santa Barbaras. They are quite heavy.
Now, Martin Bowers is on here saying, and I think he's agreeing with me, he's saying thumb time is important. That sounds like time on the water is important, or if you're a hockey player, time on the ice is important, but he's saying thumb time is important. Yep. Do you know Martin Bowers?
I've seen his name on here many times. I think he sails the boats. I'm not sure. Is he from England maybe or something?
Don't know. It's the first time I've seen his name or that I recall seeing his name, but he must be an RC guy.
Mm.
Yeah, and it really is about being very subtle on the rudder, and I'm kind of Captain Twitchy on the rudder. I always have to not try to do too much. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to replay that video we saw a few minutes ago. What are some of the other stories, funny or otherwise, and how do we get more people into the sport? And do people go from RC boats, RC yachts, into normal-sized dinghies? Tell us.
Well, I don't know a lot of people who transition yet, but it is a really excellent way to learn sailing and improve at it. Obviously, it's kind of a funny sport. Like I said, there's things that you don't expect when you come from the racing world, like slipping and falling at the pond. If you look at those people walking along there, I can tell you 100% of those people have taken a spill over there and fried their transmitter, or worse, their cell phone.
We always make fun of John Emmett running around with his selfie stick and doing his videos, but that must be dangerous. You're watching your yacht from the side of the pond, and you slip and fall on your keister.
Yeah, and you're walking along the pond or along a dock the opposite way of somebody else, and you just walk straight into somebody. I've seen a lot of people, reply. People can reply if they have, but walking into a pole or something, it's just, we all have these similar things that happen to us as RC sailors that are quite funny. Probably the funniest one is when we glue our fingers together, because we use super glue to glue the ends of knots so that they don't come untied, and so that we can cut the line with a really sharp edge so we can get it in what are called bowsies. Bowsies are these little black pieces on the boat that you feed your lines through, and so here you go, you're downstairs, you glue your finger together and you yell, oh whatever, oh crap, and your wife, what's wrong honey, and you're just like, oh, I just glued my fingers together again. So
why do you glue the knots? Why do you have to do that?
Well, first of all, the knots, well, they can come untied or they can pull through the bowsies. But especially when you want to cut a line, if you don't cut it really sharp, you can't get it through these tiny holes in these little adjusters we use for our sheets and for our Cunninghams and our backstays and things. And so you have to, you want to glue that knot and then cut the line and things like that. So we use what they call CA glue in several different things.
Now, we've seen America's Cup teams. In fact, Stingray is saying when he was in Valencia for AC32 back in 07, there were a lot of the teams. We've seen Dennis with an RC, like a 12-meter type or an IACC type boat. Have you seen many of those around, John?
We do see a few Volvo boats. They call them Volvos, and don't see a lot of America's Cup style. But we do see some people that just come with the Amazon boats. There's little boats, and I wouldn't suggest those. If somebody
Amazon, meaning you can buy them off Amazon? What does that mean?
Yeah, you can go on Amazon and just look up remote control boats, and you can find all kinds of little things. And almost all of them don't really work. But if you wanted to go with a cheaper model, there is the Dragon Force 65. So that's the 650 millimeter smaller boat that is probably 265 to get into the sport, and those sail quite well. I think the DF95 is much more stable, and the DF95 is just slower than the IOMs. The DS65 has some pretty strong fleets around the country, though.
J. Frederick Bland is telling us that Ca equals cyanacrylic glue.
Yes.
Cyanacrylic glue. That sounds dangerous. Can you sniff that stuff and have a good time?
Or you squirt it all over yourself and things like that.
Oh, you squirt it all when you squirt it, but then I won't go.
Never mind,
Julia. That deserves a finger. I was about to say something crotonic, Julia.
I know.
Yeah,
but you stopped in time.
Well, I did. It's hard. I have very little self-control, John, as you know, and Julia for sure knows. One more slide here we should show. This is just such a beautiful shot. That's not.
It is.
That almost looks like Mission Bay Yacht Club, but I know it's not. But Mission Bay.
That's the Paradise Point Resort. So that's one way that people can find it if they come into San Diego, Paradise Point Resort. And those are the IOMs right there. So you can see how tall and skinny the rigs are on those.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. What a beautiful shot. San
It
Diego is
is.
such a beautiful place. You're making me homesick, having lived there for on and off for a long time in 2 different stints. But down at, speaking of U.S. sailing and down on the Strand, the Silver Strand, when we were there a couple of weeks ago, I went there for the Rolex dinners, you know, John. But Bob Johnstone of J-Boats fame, Bob the marketing whiz, and his brother Rod was the designer, and now the kids are running, Alan and so on are running J-Boats. But he gave quite a presentation. I didn't see it, but any number of people have told me what a great presentation Bob gave. And he says that, and he's been for years a big proponent of RC yachts, and he says it grows the sport. It reaches out to non-sailing families in public, inner city, Montessori type schools, private girls and private co-ed schools. All you need is a half-acre pond, and there's a half-acre pond, he says, in every school,
Every time.
every town rather, in the USA, near every school. Engages adult communities as teachers and mentors. And he says it motivates youth using the world's most popular one design race boat instead of a kiddie boat.
Mm-hmm. That's
And
probably
again,
true.
I think we're talking about the world's most popular one design RC boat, obviously.
Mhm.
What do you think of all that, John?
Yeah, I've always wanted to have, go out. If I had the money, I'd go out and buy 10 of these boats and I'd give them to a robotics club nearby. And I would have these kids build the boats with no help. And then I'd create a little regatta for them or something. I think, I met Bob when I worked for J World in Newport, and the Johnstone family had a huge impact on me. But he is the master communicator. He is raising money to get as many middle school kids as he can an opportunity to sail these boats. I think it was in Maine where they have a program that's in the school, in the middle school, and the leader of that program got an award for something else at the sailing symposium. But that was one of the programs he ran. He brings in kids. They pay $250 for a course in remote control sailing. They build the boats, they practice, they learn, they race them, and then they get to take the boat home at the end
Ooh, that's nice.
over a 4-week period or something.
Mhm.
Yes, what Bob's doing is pretty cool because he's right. People walk up and the first thing they ask me is, does that thing have a motor?
Mhm.
That's almost always that's the first question. The boats are just enlightening. You look at them and you kind of get a little excitement because they just go faster than you think they should.
Mm. David Bray is, Julia, talking about, I think, your favorite yacht club in the world, the Royal Prince
Prince
Alfred
Alfred,
Yacht
yes.
Club. I believe that's what the RPAYC
So,
is, to
yep.
which David is referring. We have a big fleet of DF95s. I don't think that's a typo. Is there such a boat as a DF65?
Yeah, he totally.
Right, that was
You were-
the one.
you were
That was
just-
the
you were
650 millimeter one. The one that's the shorter version is cheaper, and so there's that model.
That's the boat you were calling the 650 a moment ago.
Yeah, DF65.
DF65, including Jason Waterhouse and his dad, Rod, 2 famous sailors. Rod uses the 2 boats they own to teach his grandson how to sail.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting comments. Catherine Shaw, she's coming to San Diego to the Etchells Worlds next year, 2025, or is it, when are the Etchells Worlds, 2025 or 2026?
They're in 2026. The North Americans come up here in I think in May here as kind of a precursor to that. North Americans are here this year, and Worlds are next year.
Stingray up in Seattle is asking, how deep is the DF95 keel? Mine can be hard. He's got another boat. I think he's the one that had the Victoria. Mine can be hard to launch off shallower lake shores.
Yeah, I think I'm guessing, I should know that. It's about 14, 15 inches, and it's a 2.25 pound bulb hanging at the bottom.
Okay. Half-acre pond includes every town in the USA. Steve Gruber is reminding us that says it all. That's a good point. And you've got ponds in the middle of parks, in the middle of, isn't there a big RC? You Brits would know. Isn't there a big RC yachting scene on Hyde Park, whatever the pond is in the middle of Hyde Park in London? I think there is, from memory. I mean, I think I've seen it in person.
Kimball
Yeah,
Living.
and the designer of the boat is from Britain. John Tushingham is his name. They have their RYA dinghy show going on, so I bet you there might be people watching us who are going to go to that this weekend.
Yeah,
But
that's
John
going on
Tushingham
right
not
now.
only is a great designer of the boat, but he's very, very good at these boats.
That's a great name, John. We got to have John Tushingham on the show, Julia, just because of his name.
Yes. Yes.
Kimball Livingston, the esteemed past Commodore of former Commodore, or what we call staff Commodores here at St. Francis Yacht Club, and many of the West Coast clubs call them staff Commodores. He says it's also a thing of beauty, the pond boats, no RC, at Spreckles Lake here in San Francisco in Golden Gate Park. Nice point. And Clayton Embley is saying, we got Clayton, we got to get your bourbon cream, Julia.
Oh,
It's a tradition now, John. And next time you're up here in San Francisco, we'll get you some of Clayton Embley's bourbon cream. And this is a TFE tangential, but I got to go to camera too, Julia. I'm going to spill this all over my lap. John, this bourbon cream is good stuff. It's better than Bailey's, I guarantee you.
it's not necessarily.
Oh, come on, Julia. It's smoother. It's nicer. And when we mention Clayton Embley in Kentucky or wherever he is, I get off beam here, off my mic. Okay, Julia, you can toast Clayton
Cheers.
Embley.
The Clayton.
To Clayton. But John, when we do this, even the smell of it is good. But Julia, wait, there is more. Because Clayton sent us a care package that arrived a couple days ago. He sent you a Valentine's Day 2-ounce bourbon balls.
Wow.
We got big balls doing this investigation here in the U.S. for
Yes.
the Department of Government, Doge for Elon Musk. 2-ounce bourbon balls at Kentucky Bourbon Cream Center,
Oh, good.
dipped in our dark chocolate and crowned with a southern pecan.
Oh.
Julia, for you.
Wow.
Two bourbon balls. Just what you
exactly
need.
need.
And moreover, look at this, John. This is bourbon brittle,
Ooh, that sounds good.
which is even better, I think, than the bourbon balls. At
Yes.
least I think. I
Try
would,
it. You
No,
can-
I'm not going to try it. You have it. Here. You have it, and you can open
looks
it
good.
during the show. Okay. And finally, he also sent us, do you recognize that club? That is the Lexington Yacht Club. In Lexington, Kentucky is where Meg's husband is from.
Oh,
I'm going to give
yeah.
that to him. He'll like that.
Yes.
So, paid back to our chat here, RSYS, that's the Royal Sydney Yacht Squadron, has a massive fleet of DF95s. Pedro Foiling Sailor says, a.k.a. Peter Stevenson down in Australia. Sounds like, John, like the DF65 is more popular in Oz than the DF95.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think I would think that it'd be equally kind of possible. I know there's a couple guys down there that have done some good videos on the 65s, but a lot of good sailors in Australia. If you watch the videos from there, you can tell they're very solid.
You see, Julia's getting right into that coffee, her coffee with bourbon cream. The show becomes much more interesting,
Lunch.
John.
Oh, yes. Andrew Dolly DeVola says he used to race IOM class, but now the DF65 is now the big class in Australia. Cheap racing for all and very popular around Aussie clubs.
Because those boats are, what, 30 centimeters, 30 millimeters shorter. Are they less expensive as well?
Yeah.
They're 300 millimeters shorter.
300 mils,
and
yeah.
they're about $265. And I suspect their venues might have more wind too. I think the DF65 is, if you're sailing in a venue that's more than 6-7 knots regularly, they are outstanding.
Got it.
I just find in the pond and real light air, they're just not they just don't pick up and squirt like the DF95 does.
Do you have different size rigs for the DF95? Didn't I see a video? I didn't put it in the show,
Yeah.
but of you using the A rig or the B rig?
Yeah, I have a C rig right here. I don't know if I can do this or not. Just don't know if I can fit it in there.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know. But anyway,
No, we get the idea. So
Yeah.
there's
it's a much smaller.
got it.
Yeah.
That's the C rig, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the C rig. So there's 4 sets of sails, and you can see the C rig is quite small.
4 meaning A,
So
B, C, and
one rig
John.
goes up to about 13 knots.
Yeah.
And tacking or purling, going nosediving is the signal for when you change from the A to the B or the B to the C. And then there's a D rig, which is just ridiculously small, but they do sail these boats in about 35 knots.
Wow. Steve Atkins from Connecticut is saying there's a dedicated pond in Deep River, Connecticut, and it's called Dry Pants Yacht Club. 10 minutes from him in Madison, Connecticut, out there in eastern Connecticut. Mary Longpre says that in Christchurch in New Zealand, they have a wonderful large pond and the oldest yacht club in the world. It's just for RC boats, she says. Look at all these smart people.
Well, that's nice.
Steve Gruber saying Tushingham. He likes that name too. Mark Holland here in the States says there's a great up near Boston. He says there's the great RC facility in Central Park, New York. Always fun on a Sunday. Kimball Livingston, ever seen an 80-year-old run? When his ex is headed for the bricks, they run fast. Solings are big, Alan Long tells us. He's normally in Cleveland, but he's back and forth to Cleveland and Texas and so on. He says Solings are big, the Soling RC yachts are big in northeastern Ohio with the Western Reserve, which is is that a university, Julia? Case Western Reserve, right? And in and around Cleveland, Ohio, the Western Reserve RC Group. Okay, good stuff. Andrew, I think you told us about Andrew's racing the IOM and the DF95. What's the CR914, Alan Long is asking, John?
Yeah, interestingly enough, here at San Diego Yacht Club, they have a little fleet of those, and they're a much older design. They're a tiny bit bigger than the DF95, heavier and wider, but you can use almost the same standard parts on them, and they're very simple. They're quite good little boats. They really, when a lot of these heavy boats, once the breeze really picks up, they just absolutely fly.
Colin Robinson, who must be in Australia, hi Colin, says 76 boats at the recent IOM Worlds in Gladstone, Australia. Massive class worldwide. We got a lot of RC boat aficionados on here, I think. Cool stuff.
Yeah, you can look that up on YouTube. They did full live stream coverage of that, and their commentators, they're not as good as the 18-footer commentators, but their commentators were very good. And Mark Gollison was down there. The Americans had about nine of our best sailors down there. My brother's done the IOM Worlds before. Mark Gollison, I think he was top 5 or 6 this year.
Well,
I think
Gollison, he's a world-class sailor. I've known Mark for, 40 years, maybe longer, Long Beach Yacht Club and his whole family. Fabulous sailors. Are people getting, and not that Mark's old, he's younger than I, but do people get into RC boats at an older age? Is that something Julia or I should go do now instead of going and hanging our butts over the side of an Ilka?
Yeah, it's really an interesting thing. There's 4 or 5 things about RC sailing that are really good about, being another option for people. And that's one of the coolest parts is when you see people that maybe gave up the sport, it was too serious for them, or they got a family and then they come back to sailing later in life and get back into it. And it's really not hard to pick up. It's hard to do well, but it's not hard to pick up.
Next time I'm in San Diego, will you take me to your pond? What days do you race there?
Yeah, I do my own practice on Mondays for about an hour and a half by myself. And then Wednesdays we get, a variety of boats. We generally race together. But Wednesdays I take a 2-hour lunch and they race from noonish till 2ish.
On Wednesdays?
Mm-hmm.
On your RC pond, on your model yacht pond. Is it called Model Yacht Pond in Mission Bay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And if you YouTube search model yacht, if you YouTube San Diego Argonaut Model Yacht Pond, you'll see a bunch of drone footage of a bunch of races. There's Steve Ross, formerly of Ullman Sales, retired from Ullman Sales. One of his hobbies is flying drones, and he films the pond a lot.
Mm.
So the San Diego Argonauts is what we call ourselves as a group, and it includes power boats. There's mornings are for power boats and afternoons are for sailboats on the pond.
Mhm.
They have RC power boats as well.
They have all kinds. There's a few people. It's been there for years. There's still some old school guys around that have little, Navy destroyers and tugboats, and they just do. They have little islands they put out in the pond and sail around. They do a Christmas light show every year.
You're kidding
It's
me.
a pretty neat group of guys.
That sounds terrific.
Well, one of the best Christmas light shows is on San Diego Bay,
Right.
and they do it in 2 Saturday. It's so good that,
Yeah.
that they do it
Yeah.
on 2 successive Saturday nights, and it brings hundreds of thousands of people down to the bay, right, John?
Yeah, the Parade of Lights, 2 weekends, and it's it's heavily managed because it's a feat in the dark to have all of those boats out there on the water circling. They go by downtown and then they go up by the airport and they spin around and go by Coronado and then it's done.
Yeah, it's a bit of a drinking fest too out on the water. I've been on the Yacht America on more than once for that occasion. It's good fun.
Yeah, I
Cole,
could give a shout out to the Yacht America. If anybody wants to come to San Diego and see whales, they should call Next Level Sailing, Troy Sears, and they almost always see whales. He's famous in San Diego for finding the whales. So the Yacht America, you go out on it, bring 2 coats.
yeah.
Most people freeze to death that aren't used to it, but bring 2 jackets and contact Next Level Sailing.
Yeah, give Troy a big hug for us. He's a dear friend, a long time friend. Ed Worley's asking, maybe this is our last question. We'll let you go. I know you got to get back to work there at SDYC. Do they have RC committees to organize race committees? RCRCs. Do they have RCRCs to organize the regattas?
Well, yeah, just like a lot of things for recreation, they struggle with finding volunteers. So if anybody who is inspired, make sure that, inspired in the sport, make sure they're volunteering or giving where they can, when they can. And yeah, but our race committee works quite hard. The race committee chairman usually fries after the 1-year job. Yeah, it's quite an organization, and we do race week in April, and then we got regional championships and Traveler Series to qualify for nationals, and then they run IOM races and Solings and all those. So yeah, it's not a huge endeavor, but even setting buoys, if people show up, I really encourage people to dive in and at least help set buoys, and once in a while bring a pizza or something. You got, everybody needs to kind of do what they can. Yeah.
Well, as you said, and I didn't get Julia's mug here on camera 3 when you said it, but in fact, it was in one of these videos, how important the social aspect is of all this, how much fun it is. Julia's face lit right up because we all know at the end of the day, to promote our beloved sport, it's all, in fact, John Emmett was saying it in one or both of his videos, how important, the lady said it, that he was interviewing in that Ilka 6 interview, how important the social aspect is. People want to get together, they want to have fun, they want to have a sizzling sausage.
Yes.
And a glass of something. And is that a big part of RC yachting as well?
Yeah, we do. We regularly have little hot dog socials at the end of sailing, sitting around and everybody talking and having a good time. Yeah, I basically have a general rule that, if people don't show up to help, they don't do anything, then they don't have a right to have comments about what should happen. So that's my general rule for
Good
people.
rule.
Don't be putting in ideas and all these things if you're not stepping up.
Good rule.
Right.
Julia,
Probably the challenge to the social side obviously can be the racing rules. So I really encourage people to recognize that, we're sailing in conditions where the wind is swirling. We're standing 200 feet from our boats. And if we disagree about rules a little bit, it's to a small degree normal, and very few people cross the line. And in our rule, basically, when they cross the line, they get asked to leave the race. I just encourage people.
when you say cross the line, do you mean that people just willful disregard for the rules, bumper car racing? What does that mean?
Yeah, and actually start to get upset with each other and argue loudly. It does happen once in a while, and that's unfortunate. But but people need to accept a small amount of disagreement. You know, the rules are not clear. We are standing 200 feet from our boats. It's not like we're in a, you know, on the boat. So people should come in with a little bit of an open mind, put faith in the fact that when people improve, if everybody helps each other like we do at the pond, as people improve, those situations go away a lot. And then all of a sudden you notice it gets quieter and quieter. So if your fleet is new, have some patience. There's going to be disagreements once in a while. And just, you know, have a rule. If people step over the line, the person in charge just says, hey, you're out. You have to drop out of this race.
Cool.
But I do, you know, want people to remember that, you know, the wind is swirling in these ponds and it's not as easy as everybody might think.
So it's got to be darn difficult. I mean, just the thumb control. And yeah, okay, I get it. If the boat is well set up, goes upwind on one tack, and you don't have to do a lot of. But still, the wind is shifting constantly, especially this is lake sailing. This is inland lake pond sailing. Like I grew up in Michigan. I'll tell you my 132nd RC story. And that is that at a certain yacht club in Gstaad, or they say locally Stad, Switzerland, up in the hills, as Julia knows, and John, I don't know if I've told you this, we have a club that we founded in '98, so it's 25 plus years old now. It's called the Gstaad Yacht Club, and it was founded during a Formula One race on track between some people who ski there or live there, Bernie Ecclestone and a few others. We decided to found a yacht club. We thought we'd have 30 or 40 members, and that would be it. And it was kind of founded as a joke. And now the thing, I think we have 250 members, a clubhouse. We do yachting on the Mediterranean. We have reciprocal clubs, and it's a member of the International Council of Yacht Clubs, Julia, ICOIC. But our signature event, John, is a ski yachting competition the end of this month, end of February. And during the day, we ski on Mount Egli there in Stad. And then at night, we go into the local Schwimmbad, German for swimming pool. And they have an indoor, obviously, pool. And we go into that pool, set up big fans that the club now owns, great big fans at one end of the pool. And we have a couple of RC-controlled IACC boats. So I know they exist because Bill Koch bought a couple and donated them to us, to the club. He's probably an honorary member along with God knows who else.
Yeah.
And we match race those RC yachts, those IACC, International America's Cup class RC yachts, up the pool, around the buoy, and back down. I think we do 2 laps. It's really difficult because you talk about swirling wind and fans and 2 competing fans. And everybody's lining the sides of the pool, and every now and then there's too much and people get thrown in, and there's a big food fest going on. And my contribution to getting that going was to run up and down the side of the pool and umpire in a black and white striped shirt, the early days of that Gstaad Yacht Club, what's called the ski yachting competition. It's hugely popular. Yacht clubs come from around the world, the Royal Yacht Squadron, the Royal Thames, the Royal Hong Kong. And it's great fun, and thanks to RC Yachts in a pool with fans, big fans, commercial blower fans. We'll have to get you there, John.
Yes.
In the jet flown by Vice Commodore Harrington and Jonathan Franks that Julia is going to charter.
Oh, yes.
Since she's having such a good couple of years in the stock market. John, anything else? Final thoughts?
I think if people get into the sports, my 2 recommendations are rechargeable batteries for your transmitter. Don't go keep buying AA's. Just get rechargeable batteries. And when you order your boat, get this stuff, Corrosion X. If you're in fresh water, it's not as crucial, but you still do corrosion inhibitor around the gooseneck and on your metal fittings inside the boat, on your servos, on your receiver and all that. But Corrosion X is
Hold it right up.
95 cents for that.
Hold it right up to your camera so we can see the label. Corrosion X.
Aha.
Good advice. John Emmett, who's normally in the UK, down in Australia. Corrosion X, okay?
Yeah, and you get all your backup parts, and you could go now and order boats. I think there's a few boats available, but radiosailing.net is the primary American dealer. That's Chuck LeMahieu in Texas. And during COVID, the supply chain issues and the popularity of the boat caused a lot of wait times for boats. But that's those problems are being solved because he now occasionally does air freight, but he does big containers.
From China.
Yep, coming from China. There is a version 3 boat now. They've just made they've just beefed up some of the plastic parts up on the deck, and there's a few other things they've done to the boats, and they've changed it. They call it the DF95 version 3, and they really don't change the boat. They're just upgrades to things that might get little cracks in them or aren't as strong as they need to be. So nobody should be intimidated by that. You can get the version 2. I know Canada is selling version 2s, a dealer in Canada, for cheaper now because they're getting all the version 3 boats in. So
Cool.
yeah.
Okay, well, Taylor Canfield's dad, Bill Canfield, is saying, I have watched competitors walk right off the dock with their RC, presumably with their RC controls in their hands. And I'm sure there's some great stories, but what an eye-opening guest you've been, John. No
Yes,
surprise.
it's been wonderful. I've learned a lot today.
It's been fun having you, and we appreciate very much. And we'll see you
Yeah,
hopefully.
I really love these little boats. I think it's really helped my general sailing, especially with emotional response. Being able to just sail the boat and just continually over and over again, you have things happen every race, and you just like we learn as sailors, if you dwell on things, you pay for it. So this sport helps you in all of sailing, and I think it's just a great way for. I would really encourage people to give back to their clubs and teach the newer people, how to do it better. Like me.
Oh, we got one last question. Does Corrosion X work on dinghies?
Yeah, you could use it for anything that requires, any sort of lubrication. I mean, it's amazing stuff.
Does Chuck make a secondary market for learners to try, used boats? There must be used boats around.
He doesn't, but I would just show up. Most of the time, I would just find a pond. The American Model Yacht Association, AMYA, you might be able to find a list at their website, AMYA. Look up a fleet, show up, and just say you're interested. And especially at the Argonauts Pond, I'll tell you, people will walk up to you when they see you standing there and hand you their transmitter. They are very quick to show
share.
the world these boats.
Mhm.
And we talked when we were doing the tech check and trying to get ourselves centered in our cameras, and here's John Harper making a point. Steering them when they're coming at you is really tough because everything's backwards. Julia,
Yeah,
that would drive
happens
you
more to
crazy.
people. That happens more to people who are newer to sailing, but you find yourself either steering the wrong direction on occasion, or the funniest thing, other than walking off the dock, which many people have done, I've seen, but that is when you're sailing somebody else's boat. So you think you're looking at your boat and you're not, and you finally find out where your boat is, and you're sitting there head to wind on a run or something.
Good stuff.
Uh,
John, much appreciated.
yes.
SDYC's head coach, John Rogers, on the DF95s, and we ended up talking about a lot of other classes that I'd never heard of, most of them, but explosive growth of RC yachting and the sheer fun of radio-controlled racing.
Yeah.
Cool stuff. John, many thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, and also I'm always continually impressed with your studio you've set up. I know that's probably been quite a challenge, and you've done an incredible job of putting the show together and then having all this equipment that makes it so professional.
Well, you're very kind, and it's because of the FOSI, the Friends of Sailing Illustrated, who help us keep on the air. And John, thank you again. Thanks for coming on. We'll do it again sometime sooner than later. And Steve Atkins says he's been dragging his feet on joining the RC fray. Good presentation, John. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, here's one other comment. Sorry, the comments are rolling in here, John. Joe Holtzman, who's a guy that grew up on he's from southeastern Michigan, longtime Interlake, the 18-foot small, well, it's a larger snipe with a spinnaker. He says, I RC sail on my pond in Esther Park in Estes, Colorado. So I think you struck a chord with a lot of our regular FOSI,
Right.
and inspired
A lot of us.
Julia, you got to get an RC yacht, go down to St. Francis and sit by the dock of the bay.
I know.
Da, 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 da,
Right.
da, da, da,
Right,
da.
right, right.
That guy was from San Francisco who wrote that song.
Yes, he was.
John, thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you. Take care.
Talk
Okay.
soon. Ciao.
Bye.
Bye. What a great
That was fun.
great segment. It was
Yeah.
good fun. Good
Yeah.
for a Friday, I think, too. SDYC's head coach, John Rogers, and good friend, longtime friend. Appreciate him coming on very much indeed.
I said before, it's interesting how much stuff just can come out of him because he just knows it, and it's wonderful.
Well, he's a great communicator, too.
Yeah,
And his wife's an elementary school principal and, just
yeah,
cool guy.
super.
And a great sailor to boot. Great sailor to boot. Okay, nice to have John on. And what happened, Julie, on this day, on the 21st of February? Pretty recently,
Oh, 21.
2021.
Um,
Here's your first clue.
okay.
We'll see if one of the foes get it before you.
Grenadier.
2021. Where were we? Those are cut boats.
Yep.
Where were we sailing in 2021? Between COVID outbreaks. We weren't, but we were following the racing in Auckland.
Auckland. Oh, yeah.
And these two yachts were the finalists in not the Louis Vuitton Cup, but in the Prada Cup. Remember Patrizio Bertelli?
right,
Remember
right,
that?
right,
He
right.
gave the Prada Cup as for the Challenger Selection Series. And that yacht, that was your next clue.
Oh, yes, with the big
They were foilers.
foilers. Yeah.
Mark Holland says Auckland. He's got it. And here is the answer in this video. Roll it.
Is this the final race of the Prada Cup?
Rosso will make the match and be the official challenger.
Okay, just a short reminder that LRPP, Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli,
Yep.
won the Challenger Selection Series, aka Prada Cup,
Right.
down there in Auckland. And remember that it was in the middle of that final. I think it was a best of 13 from memory. And remember they were having COVID outbreaks, and that Croutonic prime minister was closing the country down.
Yeah, not letting people out.
And not letting people in, and exactly. Colin Robinson is just back on that previous topic. Great ambassador for RC sailing, great ambassador for sailing in general. Colin, thank you. That's what was going on, and of course that was won by Luna Rossa. And I have been telling you that no other Challenger record had ever gotten to the match until the Brits did this last year in Barcelona, but that's not true. These guys were the Challenger record.
Mm-hmm.
They were sponsoring the Challenger. Patrizio Bertelli, aka Prada, were
Right.
sponsoring the Challenger Record Series, which they won and got themselves to the match. But it was on this day that the CSS, the Challenger Selection Series, wrapped up, and the Prada Cup final determined the challenger that, of course, would face ETNZ in the 2021 match. Was raced from 13 to 21 Feb in the best of 13. Okay, best of 13 series, first to win 7. As the higher seed, Ineos Team UK chose to have starboard gate position as their preferred starting. At least they got that in the first race. And then you alternate after that. This, of course, Wikipedia, I think. Coming into the finals, both teams were undefeated in the immediately preceding series.
Mm.
The semifinals for Italy and the round robins for the UK. GBR. Italy would eventually continue this streak by winning the first 5 of that final series and eventually the whole series. The Brits only won 1 race in that first to 7.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, then the Italians went on to race in the match where they got drubbed by ETNZ.
Mm-hmm.
And that on this day in history, the 21st of February, 2021. And as I said, they were actually the first Challenger of record to get to the AC match. They didn't win it, of course. No Challenger of record ever has. except in a multiple challenger series. Now, in a single challenger series,
Mm-hmm.
the challenger has won.
Mm-hmm.
In 2010, for example. I wonder who that was.
I
Julia.
wonder.
Yeah, there were 2 complete World Series regattas canceled before finally getting there. Yeah, Mark Holland is saying, yeah, indeed, that was the case. Okay, so much for this day in history. A quick update. I thought that was a good segue to go now into the America's Cup. I have 2 slides, 2 slides only.
Okay.
That's like in Hunt for Red October. 1 ping only, Vasily. 1 ping only.
Oh, I have to watch.
AC38 Cup date.
Okay.
And there's been a lot of more stuff has been written this week, and it's all stuff that we started telling you about 3 weeks ago. That Ineos was obviously in some kind of financial issue. They're having a relook at all their finances, including and especially their sports portfolio. Magnus has reported on that ad nauseum, and now the other bloggers and other articles coming out in the various Brit newspapers. But we told you as soon as we saw that they were spinning off one of their companies, that company that, speaking of COVID,
Right.
that was making hand sanitizer, Ineos, the chemical company,
Right.
quickly got into that, and it was some
For
virtue.
COVID. Yeah.
During COVID, it was a bit of some virtue signaling, but they sold that company, obviously trying to,
Yep.
protect their core business and their sports properties. But you only need to see these 2 slides to see what's going on. Forget about the rugby, forget about the America's Cup spat, fight with Sir Ben, but look at their Formula One team, which they own, or Jim Ratcliffe, a.k.a. Ineos, owns a chunk of. That was their 2024 car. Here is their, it just got released this week. There is their 2025 car. You see Ineos branding anywhere there, Julia?
No.
No. And it looks like they're having a considerable fight with Mercedes and Petronas, who's the Brazilian petrol company. And that is not a good look for a company that has been sponsoring lots of different things, including Sir Ben Ainsley's America's Cup team. The other cut and paste, or the other graphically, the Royal Yacht Squadron has just amended their website and taken off Ineos Britannia and put on Athena Racing as their as their representative team for the next America's Cup. But that comes as absolutely no surprise, and why people are writing great big long things about it. But John Emmett is saying, "Wow, look at this! Ineos is off the F1 car." So I suspect, as many of you do, Julia, as you probably suspect, that Sir Ineos won't end up doing a Cup team at all.
Lots of energy and lots of money.
Well, and the Cup, the interesting question is now, where will that IP, the intellectual property, the design information, all that stuff, where will that accumulate? And one also suspects that the press release they put out, that Sir Jim Ratcliffe put out, saying they had 100 people, engineers, designers working on their AC38 boat, that probably was, shall we say, what did Nixon say, or when one of Nixon's henchmen said? Well, that statement is not operative. A flat out lie. Shows that even billionaires run out of money, Ed Worley is saying. It was a Malaysian company? I thought Petronas was a Brazilian company. Is it Malaysian? Thank you, Ted Ryman. How smart, Julia.
I was good.
Our Fozy are. How
They
very
are.
smart. Okay. Carrying on here, we have an AAAA, thanks to
good.
another Alistair Murray. And this is just sort of a wrap-up. He runs into these people. He turns his camera on. They talk. They say interesting things.
He's good at that.
And he is so, exactly, Julia, he's so good at it. So here is our latest AAAA, Alistair Murray's, and his theme song, the Royal Naval Band from Australia, with his awesome Aussie anecdote. And this today is who it, oops, there's John still working in his office. We got a live feed from San Diego. So that's, you know who that is, Julia, with him, with a microphone?
No.
That's is he a double gold medalist now, Matt Weirn?
Maui Jim.
He's got his Maui Jim hat on, but he is the, I believe, double gold medalist in the laser class and the Ilka 7 class for Australia. Just won again in Marseille. Matt Weirn with Alistair a weekend or so ago at Sail GP, and Alistair sat him down and interviewed him. Or maybe Matt was interviewing Alistair. Here's the video.
Yeah.
Julia and all the Fosey. This is AAAA. That's Alice's Awesome Aussie Anecdote, right? For Sailing Illustrated.
Love it.
You love it?
Yeah.
And I'm here with my good friend Matt Weirn, dual gold medalist in the Ilka class. And we've had a great day today, haven't we, Matt?
We have, yeah. It's been great watching the Sail GP go around.
Yeah. How'd it go? How was Tom's starts?
Yeah, Aussie smashed it. Yeah. Off like a rocket off the line, and they didn't see which way he went, I think.
Yeah, he was good. So we've had a great day to get on the water today, and I just thought the Fosey, do you know what Fosey? You wouldn't know that. Fosey is Friends of Sailing Illustrated.
Oh, okay.
Right? So if you
More
watch
acronyms.
it, you can be a Fosey.
Yeah, okay, perfect.
Now, Matt, the Olympics, how'd you go? Did you all right?
Yeah, just all right. Yeah, no, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
Obviously bringing back a gold medal again for Australia was a pretty proud moment.
Boring. I mean, you've done it twice now.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good habit to have.
Yeah. And what was the highlight for you? What was the best thing about being there?
I mean, obviously winning the gold in itself is pretty special, and it's something that we'll never forget, being the first person to go back to back in the Ilka class, or the laser as it was before, and so that was really special. Obviously a big goal to tick off as well, that even before Tokyo was sort of a thing to try and make that happen. So that was nice to do that, but then also being the flag bearer at the closing ceremony was an extremely special occasion, so something that I'll certainly never forget that as well.
What did your mum and dad think?
Yeah, they were a bit
Brad and Karen, right?
Yeah, Brad and Karen.
Yeah.
They were a bit sad that they actually got on the plane to fly home that day, or the day that I found out. So they were a bit sad that they couldn't hang around and turn around on the plane and come back and be at the closing ceremony for it. But proud nonetheless, and it was just great to have them in Marseille for the gold medal as well, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I was in Marseille, hung out with Brad and Karen every day, and my flight was booked for after the medal race.
Yeah.
And the bloody medal race was postponed. Yeah. I missed your moment of glory.
Yeah, it was frustrating. Yeah, not just for myself, but for everyone that was hanging around for the couple of days, and like yourself, that had plane tickets booked home because I thought it was all going to be done and dusted. So, but that's sailing.
How were your nerves in the medal race?
They were reasonably okay. I think obviously we've been in that situation a few times before, so something that you're used to. But at the same time, it's the Olympic Games, and you're going and trying to win a gold medal and securing that. So just wanted to get it done with in some way. But it was a great experience, and certainly probably brought a bit more emotion into it rather than winning with a race to spare, which sounds weird.
So Matt, where from here, mate?
Yeah, just having 12 months off from the Olympic stuff, just to refresh mentally and physically in some way, and just trying to find some new different things. I guess professional sailing is a big aspect of the sport I want to explore, and doing stuff like this and hanging around the Sail GP has been really cool. So just trying to get into some one design racing, whether it's J70s, Etchells, anything like that get my hands on. It's been a bit of fun. Looking forward to going over to Europe soon and getting into that scene over there, which will be nice.
Just to the Etchells Worlds with John Bertrand.
Yeah, great experience. Obviously, everyone knows John, and he's done some pretty special stuff for sailing and for Australia in sailing as well. So great to learn off him, even at 78 years of age.
78.
Yeah, he can still steer a boat and win races. So
well, he doesn't get it all right, does he? What happened in the last race?
Yeah, probably fell off the boat, which I'm sure he probably doesn't want anyone to know. But unfortunately that sort of stuff happens. But we secured him back on board, ended up with a 5th in the race, I think, which is a good little comeback after someone fell overboard. But
How's that, folks? Leading an Etchells Worlds heat, skipper falls overboard, the crew sails back and gets him, they get him back on board and they come 5th.
Yeah. It just shows our potential.
Yeah. Anyway, Matt, that's probably all we've got time for. I like to chat to fabulous people. You're one of them. Really proud of you as an Australian sailor, and I'll be supporting you as you go forward with your journey.
Yeah, thank you.
And Matt, say hi to all the Fosey and goodbye to Tom and Julia.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good on you. See you guys.
Yeah.
Great.
So I cut just a little too quick away from that. There was a nice wave from them at the end.
Yes.
But Pedro foiling sailor Matt is a humble legend of Australian sailing. And Greg Phillips, of course, who's an Aussie, says, get Matt on the show. Well, when we know what his plans are, we will do that. Just that. There's Luca Craig from Planet F1 site 25. Total Wolf has said there are no plans for Ineos to withdraw their support for the Mercedes F1 team, despite the British company looking to scale back on another S fight brewing. Thanks, Luca Craig. Another great AAAA. Ted Ryman says, thanks, Alistair, but it ain't over yet. Wait, there's more, Julia, because he sent some photos, some images along. You know who that is in the middle of Matt and Alistair? That's Alistair's successor. That is the new Australian, a relatively new Australian sailing president, Siobhan Bueland. Is that how you pronounce that, Alistair? If I butchered that, sorry. But she's apparently very bright and very cool, doing good things for the sport, or so one hears, not only from Alistair, but from others.
Yes.
There is John Spencer in the middle. John, of course, famously of that Bar Karate podcast. Remember, Julian, we've talked about Bar Karate because the sailors all do this. Oh, we were going out to the right ley line, and we tack first, and we force them to tack. And it looks like people are playing karate with their hands. So that's John Spencer there in the middle. Apparently, obviously, John and Lily with Alistair, and they ran into, they must have been leaving Sydney and going back to Melbourne, because I think that photo was taken at the airport.
It looks like it, yeah.
This is Lily crewing with a friend of John. I think his name's Steve. I'm not sure. But that's a friend of Alistair's, actually. They're back in Melbourne. And Lily is gearing up to do big boat racing, keelboat racing.
Oh, good for her.
And maybe, Julia, the match racing circuit. And by the way, James Pleasance is coming on March 21st.
Oh, good.
I confirmed that this morning, which is the 25th anniversary. March 21, 2000 was the start of the World Match Racing Tour. And James Pleasance of the UK, of GBR, will be coming on live on that day. And we'll do a full commemoration of the World Match Racing Tour. And maybe he will put a panel together. I asked him to put a panel together and maybe include match racers, young and old, or new and not so new. And maybe Lily will come on that panel and talk about her aspirations in match racing.
That'd be great.
So cool stuff.
Yep.
Cool stuff in the offing. And then one last picture from Alistair. This was a FOSI meeting. I guess I recognize several of those guys, but they are what you see on the left. You know who that is? That's John Kostecki's crew in the Star. Remember his name? When they won?
I don't remember his name.
Oh, come on, Julia. Look at that. Look at the cocktails on that table, Julia.
Yeah.
That's a FOSI meeting.
Yes, indeed.
What a group. Patrice Gallo-Rocklin says, sounds wonderful. Yep. What a group. We appreciate that very much indeed. And another AAAA from Alistair. The Royal Naval Band singing one of my favorite sing-along songs.
Waltzing Matilda.
And I got a note the other day from Pedro Foiling Sailor, who said he was going to spend this weekend near a billabong, and he used another Aussie word, I had to look it up, but it means the bedroll. And it's in this song.
Yeah.
His bedroll. Because he was going out camping, and he likes to go out into the outback, near a billabong with his camp roll, bedroll. Okay, enough of all that. Alistair's awesome Aussie anecdote. Nice stuff. Thanks, Alistair. Thank you very much. Last leg. We're 5 minutes. We're 15:05, 5 minutes after our normal kind of 2-hour target here today. Great show, a lot of fun. I hope you all watching have had half as much fun as Julia and I have had. How's that bourbon cream in your coffee, Julia?
It's getting warm.
Swag, that was the word. Swag. A swag man is somebody that's got a bedroll over their shoulder.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
Well, yeah, just a sort of a knapsack kind of thing.
Yeah, well, a swag is apparently a bedroll that you sleep in. Like a sleeping bag, kind of. I don't know. What do I know? I'm not an Aussie. I've only lived there. Of my campsite, he's going to send us a photo. Please do. And let's see if he's Well, we won't talk about that, Julia. Last leg. Thank goodness, the last leg. There's a cool regatta going on every year this time of year down in the Caribbean. The Royal Ocean Racing Club celebrating their 100th year. And they've had their pre-regatta, the RORC's Nelson Cup Maxi Series. And of course, our Fozy, Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin, is down there covering that, handing out the trophies, overseeing it, in fact.
Mm-hmm.
And here is some video from that race, which took place it wrapped up yesterday. It was 3 races over a couple of days. And this is all leading up to the Caribbean 600, which starts on Monday. But this was yesterday's start of the Nelson Cup. Now, in the bottom of that, the one end of the starting line is that flagpole up on the top of the bluff there.
Mm-hmm.
And the other end is the buoy, which I've just covered up with a lower third. Now watch, obviously it's a port tack favored line, and you want to start down there near the shore. Is that white boat going to get across? Yes. Not only are they going to get across, the boat to lure to them is tacking to not have to take all the dirty air of the boats and cross behind them. There is the blue boat in the lower left corner,
Mm-hmm.
which is Wendy Schmidt's boat, I believe, her big boat. And what fabulous stuff. I mean, this is, and
gorgeous.
now, and there's no audio with this video. It's MOS, and the television business means mit out sound, mit with the German word without.
Mm-hmm.
Great stuff. And we'll be seeing a start of that race from the other end on Monday. That is the start of the Caribbean 600. But this race ended yesterday, and the Maxis were racing. And the Wally 93 Bullet, this from Tip and Shaft today, owned by Andrea Recordati, who is, by the way, the Commodore of the Yacht Club Costa Smeralda, the esteemed YCCS. He won the RORC Nelson's Cup Series, organized since 2023 in Antigua, ahead of the Caribbean 600, which starts Monday. He finished ahead of the 100-foot V, is the name of the boat, it's a boatin, I believe. Karl Komarek, who is a Czech billionaire, and the 72-foot Baltasar, Philip Balsain's boat. All these maxi yachts will meet on Monday at the starting line of the Caribbean 600, a 600-mile race across the West Indies, in which 67 boats, fully 67 boats have entered.
That's going to be
this year. So bravo Zulu to them. Thanks to Tip and Shaft and our old friends at Pantanius Insurance Company in Deutschland for sponsoring the Tip and Shaft photo of the day, which led us to some other photos. And this is the second place boat. That is V. That's that big Wally Cento 100 of Karl Komarek from the Czech Republic. CZE, I believe, is their Olympic code. And here's Wendy Schmidt's boat, Deep Blue. Look at the size of that boat, Julia.
Wow.
That's a Boatin 85, not 100, Boatin 85. And they finished 5th. Wendy Schmidt here, who I've sailed with here on the San Francisco Bay in her Santana. She also owns Santana, the Bogart.
Did she own?
Yeah,
Santana?
she still does.
Oh, she does.
She bought it from the Eden brothers.
Yeah.
And has maintained it, and in fact moved it to the East Coast. And I had the privilege with Meg of sailing on that boat, Santana. It was Humphrey Bogart, and what was his squeeze? What was her name? Lauren Bacall. Yeah, and I had the pleasure of sailing with Wendy and
Lauren.
No, not Lauren Bacall. Although she had apparently, when they sold the boat to the Eden brothers, that one of the conditions was that anytime Lauren Bacall wanted to go sailing on Santana, they could. Well, Wendy Schmidt has that boat, moved it to the East Coast. She also has this maxi Deep Blue, and she's down there in the Caribbean sailing. Here is our super Fozy, Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin, there on the right, the IMA Secretary General International Maxi Association, presenting the trophy to YCCS Commodore Andrea Recordati, whose Wally 93 Bullet is the winner of that pre-series, that warm-up series. And by the way, those photos all courtesy of Tim Wright, who is, I don't know if he's a Brit or an American, but he's been living in the Caribbean. And he's taken up this maritime photo gig and does a superb.
I love it. The camera in one hand and the
look at
the rudder in the other. Standing up.
Yeah, you got the extended arm. That's the engine arm for his Evinrude. Is that an Evinrude? Whatever it is, doesn't matter. But the guy is, and you see he's got the line forward to the bow to stabilize himself, attached to his PFD.
Yes.
And his camera covered up there. That's quite a shot. That was a good shot. Anyone know why U.S. Sailing is laying off people? Doge Davis. No, that's not why they're laying off people. It's because they're out of money. We've known that, and we've been reporting that. I'm not going to go into that here. We're going to get the president on here ASAP. John Emmett asking, is there a kill cord? I don't see a kill cord, but maybe, hopefully, maybe it's around his ankle. So if he were to go, you know what a kill cord is, Julia?
I don't.
There's a little thing on the engine, and there's a clip that goes onto the engine.
Yeah.
And if that clip comes out, the thingy goes in, and it's a kill switch. It's a spring-loaded kill switch, and you pull it and put the clip on it to hold it out, and then the engine will run. But if that clip comes out and the thingy goes in, the kill switch goes in, it kills the engine. So you either put that around your that clip, you put it around your wrist, around your ankle, so if he goes overboard, the engine stops.
Yeah.
So he can swim back to his yacht, to his rib, to his rubber boat. Okay, so there was an explanation we weren't expecting to give, but good eye and good question. Now there is the race course.
Wow.
I will explain it. I use the clip on my wrist, Steve Atkins is saying. So this starts here in Antigua, and they go up and then over to St. Kitts and Nevis, around up to Anguilla, down past Montserrat, down around Guadalupe, and then back up, and they do a triangle past the eastern side of Antigua, back over to this buoy, and then they finish it off, I think, Fort Charlotte, same general area as the start-finish line, which is, I think, that green dot right there. That's the Caribbean 600. It's been their course for some time. We'll follow that race as we do every year. This being our 9th year, Julie. We've covered that the last 3 years anyway.
I was there once.
Were you? But not this race hasn't been going on, I don't think, since you were there.
It was just the Antigua race.
Well, Antigua Race Week and the Barts and the St. Bart's and so on. The St. Bart's Bucket and lots of cool events down there. Monday, the 16th edition of the RORC's Caribbean 600 will take place. And I have a video, just because this is the final leg, I have a video from their start last year, which is one of the coolest videos I've seen in a long time. It came out after we covered last year's race, so I thought it was okay to play it today.
Ocean 1, White Eagle. White Eagle, Ocean 1, send over. White Eagle. Ready to set the IDM? You have about 70 meters to go to windward, and whilst do not extend to maximum distance, please. Ocean 1, White Eagle. White Eagle, send over. Eagle, Ocean 1, slow down, you're coming into bearing. You will tell me when to stop. White Eagle, Ocean 1, drop. Roger.
Julia,
Sir.
when you buy your Learjet,
Yes. We can go there too.
we can go there too. Add that to our. Come on, let's make it. We got our little. Let's make it up. Add it to our list.
Yeah.
Huh?
Sure.
Why not? I'm sure Jonathan Frank probably flown into that airport. I'm sure that Claire would figure out how to into the airport. Bravo Zulu, fantastic stuff. What a fabulous sport.
Yes.
But also congratulations to the Royal Ocean Racing Club. Magnus has written a couple of fine pieces. But the RORC is celebrating its centennial year.
Which is great.
1925 to 2025, notwithstanding that the Royal Cork Yacht Club has celebrated a couple of years ago its 300th year.
Only 300?
Only 300. Well, excuse me, only 300? That's like you
yes.
or me saying, we're only, 80.
Right.
We're only 80. Well, I'm not quite that old, and you're a little older than that, but Magnus did a great job on match racing. Yes, he did. Today, his thing was about the World Match Racing Tour.
I haven't read
but
that
he
yet.
got a little ahead of the power curve because that 25th anniversary is not, he must have had nothing else to write about.
Mm.
No, I'm just teasing. But we're going to cover that on the 21st of March with James Pleasance, I'm pleased to say. Julia, that gets us to the Delta, the D block, and your favorite crouton.
Yes.
What's the guy's name? We can never remember his name.
I know.
Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. What the foxtrot here is going on? Okay, people have photoshopped this old Peanuts cartoon. Did you know that water is the most essential element of life? Yes, because without water, you can't
go sailing.
Isn't that nice?
Yes.
Peter Taylor sent that. And
he knows.
And he knows. How appropriate is that, Julia? Here's another cartoon. This is Cartoon Friday. Oh, shoot, I can't find my cell phone. Julia, I dedicate this to you.
I'll try calling it.
I'll try calling it, she says, exactly. We won't be able to hear it. I left it on vibrate. It's worth a try. Whoa, hee, woo. I think I hear it. Huh?
Yes.
My phone is you have to turn your phone on or off before and don't forget to turn it back on, because then you forget to turn it back on.
Yeah.
And then I call you the next day and it doesn't ring through. Yeah, okay. Turn it back on now, Julian. If one of your boyfriend's calls, we'll let it go. Greg Phillips from Australia sent that through.
Good.
Now, this next one is a little tough, but funny. Dad, I don't like sailboats as much as you do. Am I adopted? Not yet. We can't find anyone that wants you.
Oh. Awful.
I've been holding, I didn't know if I should run that or not, but I asked a couple of our FOSI if that was appropriate to run or not, and they said, yeah, why not? So that came from who else but Ted Ryman. It's clean. At least it's clean. Ted, thanks for sending that. Stingray is saying he's perfectly willing to fly. He's going to maintain your jet.
Oh, good.
You know, he of Boeing, the retired Boeing worker coders employee up there. He probably could. Yeah, J. Frederick Bland agrees that cartoon is a bit harsh. I agree, J. Frederick Bland. Okay, we're to the finish line. Let's wrap this up quickly. To the finish line. Thank you very much for joining us today, letting us into your computer. Julia, you like to say?
Yes, like, follow, and this is another good one to share.
Yeah, it's fun having all these guests on again. I've been motivated to sign guests up, and we're going to have more panel discussions. I think John Emmett has inspired us to do more panels, like the couple he's put together for us.
Yeah.
And remember, comments are welcome, even in replay. We do leave them open, and we do go back and read them as well. Thanks again to all of you who support us via patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. Thank you, Joe Holtzman. You're very kind. Ed Worley, tough love on that last cartoon. And thanks very much indeed to all of you for your support. And, you know, this stuff from Clayton Embley, he sent some other stuff. There's some Rebecca Ruth chocolates. I'll put it here on camera one. He also, and I had this yesterday, and it's 65% fine, dark chocolate, Julia.
Good.
You'll like that.
You'll need that.
No, you can have that.
No, you can have it.
No, I've already had. I ate one. I ate this one. You take that.
No.
You take it. Clayton Emily will be happy. It's dark chocolate. It's good for you.
Yeah.
It's good for you.
I know.
Patrice, thank you. Patrice Rockland. Thank you also to everybody who gave us images, video, audio for today's show. We appreciate very much all of you who contribute that way via that route. Julia, final thoughts.
Another astounding day about astounding people and astounding things going on in this world.
Indeed. And what a fabulous sport.
Yes.
We're all so privileged to be a part of it, even if it's only here in Studio B, which is where I spend most of my sailing time these days.
I know.
I am inspired to get an RC yacht, though, I think.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
Yeah.
I think I get a DF95. There must be some DF95 or something sailing here in San Francisco Bay. I'll consult Kimball Livingston, Commodore
Yes.
Livingston.
Yeah, well, I can go on the lake.
Well, you mean in the pond
In the pond.
in Golden Gate Park?
Yeah.
On Golden Pond?
On Golden Pond.
Getting old enough to do that. Oh, Golden Pond. Okay, thanks everybody. Investigation DF95 commencing now. Another boat. Don't tell his wife Rita. Okay, thank you for all, and thank you to our upcoming guests. Next Friday, a week today, Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin will be on. He's going to update us on what is going on in Antigua right now, but also offshore racing update, latest on the 2025 Admirals Cup. I think he will be back to London by then.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll
Isn't he in charge of that?
Well, he's in charge of the IMA part of it. Oh,
Yeah.
Your phone's ringing. Now it's making noises now. Well, that's good. At least you haven't forgotten to turn it back on. So Andrew will be on next Friday, and then the following week on Tuesday, the 4th of March, Andrew Dolly Davola. Oh, I don't want to go to that slide yet, but Andrew Davola will be on. My button pushed double here, but he'll be on Tuesday the 4th. In the meantime, have a great weekend wherever in the world you are. And if you can, go sailing and sail fast, sail safe, and have fun.
Especially have fun.
Especially have fun. Ciao for now.